In a world where the podcast multiverse is a concept about which we know frighteningly little, two dudes must become something greater than themselves, something elemental, something terrifying. A podcast. With great podcasting, there must also be great responsibility. To show the multiverse that it's full of people ready to believe in good. The multiverse will hunt us. They will send the dogs on us, because that's what needs to happen. But it won't be ready to hear from us. Not us, united. Well, everyone, thank you for joining us. I feel like there needs to be some gravitas to what's happening this evening because 3 years ago, the third season of the critically acclaimed, the GOAT, if you will, the Tom Brady of TV shows, Stranger Things,
Sure.
released its third season. I think I already said third season.
Mm-hmm.
And Not Us United was but a twinkle in my eye and maybe your eye, but you weren't even in the state of Iowa.
State currently.
You probably were like 5 years old.
Yeah,
And
pretty much.
It's just crazy to think like we're finally here, season 4, only part 1, but just like how much time has passed.
How much has changed?
How much has changed? Not only for the show, but also for our lives.
That's right. Wow.
Like we literally left season 3 like, whoa, cannot wait to see what happens next.
Mm-hmm.
And then the world was like, hold my beer. And we're like, oh no. We got a season 4 we were not expecting. And then we finally got season 4, volume 1 from Stranger Things.
Yes, sir.
But no, we're super excited. We're actually going to be doing 2 episodes on this. This one's obviously for covering episodes 1 through 7 because they decided, Netflix made an executive decision to split this one up. I don't know the politics behind it, if it is some sort of Emmy deadline, got to get some content out there. They just were tired of making us wait for the next season, so there's like, let's just give them something, and then we'll finish it up later. Or if Netflix is just straight up hemorrhaging subscribers, and so they're like, let's separate this season so that you have to have 3 months of Netflix to watch this show.
Yeah,
That's fair.
Any thoughts?
I think it's all the above, and COVID delaying so much stuff that they had to like, record. I think it's a multitude of things.
Yeah, that's fair. But I do think we are kind of reaching that point where it's like, okay, I get the whole COVID thing, but we're starting to see things that have now like are reaching like a second season that's being filmed during COVID and all these things. So it's like we're kind of getting into that area where I think they're like, okay,
now
we can't wait anymore.
Yeah.
Right.
But all of our stars are also making a bunch of movies now,
Yeah.
and they're not kids anymore. Yeah. So we got to hurry up.
I would also like to introduce. We got Nick, we got Michael on the call, but as you've heard, Levi is joining us yet again.
That is true.
This time,
I got it.
from the servers of Discord.
That's right.
From the mountains of Arizona.
Yeah,
he hails.
The smoothest cat from the West. So smooth that I just even forgot that I needed to introduce him because he felt like he belonged right in. Just fits right in.
Just flies under the radar. Just so chill.
He enjoyed the podcast so much. He's back.
Yeah, and speaking of podcasts, we should let people know what the hell they're listening to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because like they're probably like, okay, so I've listened to 3 minutes of this guy say some stuff, but what am I listening to?
What is this?
Well, let me welcome you, folks, to a little ditty called "Not Us United."
That's us. We
are a podcast powerhouse, and joined with me, as always, is my co-host, Michael.
That's me,
the Glizz Dog. And we seek to interact with Cinnamon Toast Crunch Cinema, and hope that you can see it a little differently. We find the good, the bad, the wild with all that we do. And we hope that you enjoy. The strange is another thing we could add to that.
Ooh.
I love it. But we just hope that you guys can see cinema just a little bit differently. as we go on a tangent riddled podcast ride from California straight to Hawkins.
Yeah, that's right.
So anyway, we're glad you've chosen us to listen to.
Yeah,
Not us, United.
That's right.
Boom.
Let's go.
Levi's like, let's go, McLove, baby.
Cheers.
All right, boys. Well, this is a behemoth of a season,
Yeah,
and that's not an understatement.
Nope.
And I really don't know what to tackle because there's just so much that happens. And so I think in order to just give people kind of a taste, why don't we give everybody kind of an update on how we got introduced to Stranger Things, and we'll dive kind of into spoiler-free territory here in a second. So, Michael, when did you experience The Strangest Thing?
The Strangest Thing. Well, I was maybe 5 years old, and
5 years old, okay.
there was a ghost. I'm just kidding.
It was in a forest in a hospital gown.
Yeah.
Whoa. Okay.
Whoa. There was a bear. Yes, this is the beginning of New Moon. What was the movie? New Moons. Yeah.
New Mutants.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyways, dumb reference.
Yeah, it was. That's okay. No one's seen that movie, so you should go check it out.
No, you shouldn't.
Yes, you should.
Anyways, my experience with Stranger Things was when it first came out on Netflix. Everyone's talking about it, and I'm like, okay, that sounds fun and interesting. And this was during the time where Netflix was really kind of starting to find their footing in the originals game. Like, I think, House of Cards came out and Orange is the New Black, and they're like, those are their tentpole Netflix things. And so Stranger Things came out, and it's still like kind of an odd area being like, oh, Netflix made this thing.
Yeah.
And so I remember we watched the first few episodes, and then we went down and visited my sister. And we were all so into the show that she didn't have a TV in her house because she just moved in. So we all sat on the couch and watched it on her laptop.
Dude.
Because we were so invested.
Nice.
Because we were just like, we need to watch the rest of this show.
Dude, let me just quote Levi for a second and just say, let's go.
Let's go.
Let's go. Levi 2022.
Coin it.
Coin it. And so love the first season, and going back and as I've talked a little bit in the past few episodes, going back and watching the episodes, it's really good. It's a good first season. Second season for me was a little more rough, and third season was better, but also still wasn't my favorite. I think season 1 is great. I think season 2 is fine. I think season 3 is good.
Cool.
So my love for Stranger Things is kind of dwindled. It's, I would say overall, around like a 7 out of 10 for me. Like, it's good and I enjoyed it. I just think what was lacking from me in the previous Stranger Things season, especially 2 and 3, were answers. And I felt like they were just dragging things out for no reason. I felt like, it just didn't feel like we were going anywhere.
Yeah.
And so that's where I
entering
start
season
coming
4.
into season 4.
Gotcha.
Okay.
So,
Well, hopefully you get some answers.
oh, they're doing something.
They're doing something. All right.
Levi, what about you? How did you find out about Stranger Things?
So
'Cause I don't think anybody was a day one listener, but maybe you were, or day
No.
one viewer.
Yeah, no, I wasn't at all. I think honestly, I think I didn't start watching it until season 2 released.
Oh, interesting.
So
That'd
like
be nice.
quite a while, and my friend Nick, he had just kept raving about it, and people in my friend group just was like, dude, you gotta watch it. It's so good. It's like enthralling. It's like really interesting. It's cool. It's different. I'm like, all right, whatever. Like, I don't really care. And then I was just sitting really bored one day at my house, and I just was like, I'll give it a chance. Like, what's the worst that could happen? I could just not like it and then watch something else. And I just remember the first episode when the Demogorgon like is just hinted at, and then Will just disappears. I was hooked. I was just like,
Yeah.
that's it. I'm in love. Like the first like 10 minutes of the show, I'm just like, this show's great. And then I watched obviously season 1, which was fantastic. Still my favorite season, probably out of all of them. Just like from the feels of the first season. And then season 2 I enjoyed, not as much as the first. Season 3 was a little lackluster, but not as like, I still really enjoyed it. It just was Like if I had to rank the first 3 seasons, it would be 1, 2, and 3.
Mm.
And then obviously this new season came out, which I was super hyped about. Saw the trailer and I was just pumped.
Oh yeah.
And after episode 7, I think this is probably my second favorite season. And obviously we'll talk about that later. But yeah, I would say probably season 1, then 4, then 2, then 3. But this has been a good season so far. So yeah, just kind of came along casually about it and just fell in love.
Dude, sick. Um,
To quote
Yep.
Levi, let's go.
dude, let's go, dude.
Dude, let's go.
I love that saying about as much as Levi loves Michelob, am I right?
You're right.
Uh, so my experience was I also like heard of Stranger Things and was kind of like, but like no one actually told me it was like kind of D&D. It was just kind of like this like kids on bikes adventure, and I was like, okay, Goonies, I get it, that's cool, I guess. But like it just never like hit me, and this was back when like Netflix was like only suggesting what they thought you
Yeah.
really would like, and I mean now they have to because there's just too many things to watch. But I remember very vividly. I don't know why I remember this out of all the memories, but this was back in the day where I had to do some like uh some side hustling to get some extra cash to like I don't know, we were just in a spot where like we just weren't making a lot of money, and so I was like, hey, I want to take my wife out on nice dates, so I donated plasma for like a really long period of time.
Yeah.
So I have like this crater in my arm because of all of the donations I've made. Oh nice.
I got one too.
Sick.
Nice.
Number 11.
Yeah.
Um,
I'll show you my number.
I'll show you. And so the easiest thing to do to just kind of like forget that there's this giant ass needle in my arm was to like watch, Netflix.
You a big needle guy or?
Actually at this point, like I prefer the bigger needles than the smaller ones. The smaller ones, because they can move more and your veins actually hurt more.
Yeah.
Where the big ones are like, I'm either in or I'm not.
Yeah.
And it's just like sick. So just I was like always, and I had a bunch of scar tissue at that point, so they were just anyway. Anyway, you want to hear more about my plasma stories? Donate money and I'll give you some stuff.
Patreon. That's not existent.
But I just remember turning it on at one of those and was like, oh no, I'm gonna be done donating in like 10 minutes, and I want to keep watching this show. So I'm like, hey, can you just like stick my other arm? Let's just double do this. And they're just like, no, that's illegal. I was like, okay, fair enough. But yeah, then that was the point where I was like, I'm hooked. This is awesome. I never got to be a 12-year-old kid who played D&D, but I did get to be a college student who played D&D. And the idea of a board game that kind of lives and breathes as the players give life to it is incredibly attractive to me. And so like this hooked me very quickly as a D&D kind of based show. So yeah, I was hooked from then. And so when each season came out, luckily back then that was when you only had to wait a year and not 3 in between seasons. It was pretty easy to kind of get ready for that one because it was pretty quick after to get season 2. I think I'm with you guys for the most part. I do think 2 might be the weakest of the 3 seasons, but overall I very much enjoy this show and I find a lot of good in all of it. And so even though I would say 2 is the weakest season, by the sounds of it, I probably would hold it higher than where you guys are at. And so
Just the show in general.
yeah. I just think my overall score is probably just like higher for all of them. So
the only reason
oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. The only reason I think I liked, I mean, like not season 2, not as much as season 1, is because of that whole kind of part where 11 or Jane is like on her own and she goes with those other kids in the city. I just like I don't know, that part I didn't really
I'm a
like.
firm believer that you could just skip that episode. Like I truly believe that each season is 8 episodes long, and season 2 is you just skip the 9. Well, it's the 7th episode I think, or whatever it is. But
Yeah.
it's just not. There's no redeeming factor to it.
It does not affect anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which who knows? Maybe down the line they're gonna do something with it, but I don't see it.
I don't think so anymore.
Yeah, I get
There's a
it. I mean, it seemed like to me that they were just trying to do it to further Eleven's character and have her like grow independently without
Mhm.
um without Hopper, but at the same time it was like they could have done it without those other characters, with those other kids, those weird ones.
Yeah. And
But
I think the thing that I particularly enjoy about this show is that um, even the names of the villains
Mm,
aren't things that they actually are, but they have to go off of something that they know.
yeah,
And all the kids know is it's just basically this
Tim
beast
Regan,
book
whatever.
from
Yeah,
right.
Dungeons and Dragons that allows
Hmm.
them to kind of be like, hey, pretty similar. So I guess
this
a
the name.
Demogorgon,
Yeah,
I guess Mind Flayer, I guess Vecna, or
yeah,
like whatever.
Hmm.
Um, and I love that because we get this like ability to like I don't know. It's just kind of a cool insight to like that guy doesn't even call himself Vecna,
what we call
but
it.
we call him that. Like that you're tagged,
Hmm.
But it's neat that that they're so similar that they can kind of go off of it because that's
Mhm.
all a kid could do. A kid can't be like, we need to. Here's my hypothesis. This they like need some sort of measuring
Yeah,
thing, and it just happens
Hmm.
to be that most of these monsters are
yeah.
very similar
That'd be
to
interesting to be like, if like that happened to us right now, like what would we call this bad guy? Would you call him
right.
bad guy?
Hmm.
And we have to like think of a name for this person.
Yeah, you need a
Right.
common
Yeah,
ground, and so that's what's and it's hilarious because then the adults are like, the mind flayer, what the, and there's
yeah,
like just forget the name, but like here's why it's like at least in the game it does this,
yeah.
and they're like, oh, okay,
Mhm.
you're just like
Hmm.
I love it,
Yeah.
um, and so I like value that kind of in a fun way because the truth is this show stays very true to the 80s in that like the kids are important and the adults kind of suck or just like
Yeah.
sidelined unless you are
Hmm.
certain characters,
Mhm.
that
Yeah.
still don't really know what's going on and don't know why, but that's where the kids get to come in with like the knowledge and be like it's kind of like a living game and blah blah
Yeah.
blah, and so it's just neat, but
Hmm.
it's also where like the parents are just totally like useless,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
what anyway.
I think one of the things too that drew me to Stranger Things was I was reading it um
Oh sure.
Mm.
the like right around when it was happening, and so it's a very very similar kind of
Hmm.
idea of like these children tackling this horror subject.
Yep.
Mhm.
And so that has always interested me.
Oh for
It's
sure.
like oh, how does someone so innocent tackle the most horrifying thing in the world, you know?
Yeah.
So I think that this tackles that as well.
Yeah. And the other thing I will say too before we jump into discussion about season 4 is the show itself almost plays out similar to, and this is kind of hard to explain for anyone who like hasn't played like a D&D campaign, but it almost feels like everyone's been on the board and they're kind of making moves and roles, and you can kind of tell when like, oh, this is kind of like our paladin character and this is our bard
Hmm.
character and this is our whatever character, and they clearly failed their role
Yeah.
in this area or they like succeeded in this
Yeah.
area, because there's some times where these kids should just have insurmountable odds, which is very much like the game. Like you might have to roll like a critical in order to actually attack,
Yeah.
but they did. They figured out the right code. They used their intelligence roll or their awareness roll
Hmm.
and kind of got it. And you don't see that play out in like literally a die roll, but there are just some times where you're like, okay, that was just the perfect event where you showed up at the exact right time where you needed to be and you had the exact right skill set,
Yeah.
where
Right.
it almost would feel cheap in other storylines, but here it does feel like this is what happens at the board, where you're like, all right, you get one last chance, what do you do? And you did the right thing, you defeated the bad guy. And so there's just this like really cool like board game brought to life aspect to
Yeah.
the show that
Right.
I really enjoy. So
Mhm.
all right, so
All right. Cool
that's it.
beans.
All right,
Let's go.
let's go, dude.
Let's
Yeah,
go.
let's go. um so season 4,
Hmm.
the
Yep.
long awaited, and then they did the weirdest thing ever, and they were like, hey, 9 episodes, and they're
But
really freaking long,
yeah,
like really freaking like a half an hour average time, like longer than other episodes.
every episode is above an hour
Yeah.
this
Yeah,
season.
I think I heard someone say the average runtime is 78 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah, that's crazy.
but the 2 episodes that are left together are 4 hours long.
Wow.
I had a feeling that's the reason that they kind of released it late because they
2
were just
hours and
like,
40 minutes is the finale.
we're gonna release like this bombshell of a freaking
Yeah.
last 2 episodes, and they're gonna be long
Yeah.
instead of like 13 episodes of just an
Mhm.
hour, an hour, an hour, an hour.
It's like
So
Endgame and Infinity War are like just barely longer than what our finale will be in a few
Mhm.
weeks.
That's insane.
yeah,
2
that's
hours and
I
wild.
didn't
40
know
minutes.
that.
Yeah, it's a big boy.
Wow.
It's
That's
That pumps me
literally
up.
like the last 2 episodes are like 4 episodes.
Let's go.
Dude,
I'm here
let's
for it.
go. Just grab
Let's
a
go.
Michelob and let's go.
Yeah.
I'm here for
Oh
it,
man.
dude.
Okay, so without kind of giving spoilers, and I won't tease you as long as Stranger Things is gonna tease us until July 1st. Let's what did you guys think? So you kind of both kind of came in a little lukewarm on the previous 2 seasons. What did this season do for you?
Let's have a Levi start out.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Or Mike.
It set the bar way higher than I anticipated.
Mm,
Like the trailer got me so hyped. Like I'm a
oh,
person that enjoys trailers. Like not only
yes,
like the
sir.
music, but the way it was shot, the
Mhm.
scenes, the way it was put together. Like it
Separate
just gave
Ways
me
by
chills.
Journey.
Yeah,
Woo.
dude, it was insane. And the fact that they just did not give anything away. Like nothing.
Yeah.
Everything in pretty much everything in each episode, I was shocked. I was like, "What the heck is happening?" But
Mm,
coming from season 3, because I rewatched all 3 seasons
Mm.
in like 3 months in advance, like I think a season each month, just to like fresh up,
yeah.
my memory of what happened. Like obviously I know the main storyline, but just like the minute details and stuff like that that I might have forgotten. But yeah, I came into the first episode, and by the time I had finished it, I was like, I feel like I'm watching season 1 again. Like it was that good. I really enjoyed it. Just the storyline, the story was told well. And we'll get into spoilers, but I don't know. I like it wasn't as good as season 1, obviously, but it felt like I was back in, I don't know, whenever I started at 2018 or whatever. Um, so it
Took you
was,
back.
yeah, it took me back. I was just like, yeah, this is really good.
Yeah, I think that's one of the show's strongest things is that it always seems to like I mean, it obviously is taking you back. I mean,
Hmm.
it's reminding you of
Yeah.
all of the things that came before it. We're in a weird time where the Duffer Brothers are kind of like the kids who grew up being told, "Hey, you need to watch this movie, this movie, this movie, this movie," and then they basically made a show that's like a love letter to
To all
being
of
like.
those.
So it's like a
Hmm.
very weird meta show where
Mm.
it's like we're all thinking, "Man, it'd be really cool if somebody did." Oh, they did it. They actually did the thing that I was thinking about in my head, and
Mm.
that's kind of what D&D is. It's like you kind of project a new
Hmm.
skin over the rules of a board game that are very concrete, but
Mhm.
you kind of make it your own,
Sure.
Right.
And so there are a lot of touch points, like you said, Michael, like it or like Stephen King
Yeah.
stuff. Like obviously, it's incredibly inspired by Stephen
Yeah.
King stuff, not to the point where it's like plagiarism,
Mimic,
but
yeah.
like
Kid fighting
it's
a
not gonna
monster.
also
Yeah.
it's not also gonna like hide away from like that was pretty dope stuff, Stephen King. So in honor of you, boom, like let's do
Right.
something
Yeah, one
cool.
of the
Yeah.
one of the characters in this is named Patrick, and there's
Hmm.
a kid in it named Patrick that
Yeah.
like similarities are
Yes,
there,
for sure.
kind of.
Agreed.
Hmm.
But anyways,
You want to go second?
yeah, no, you can go next. I'll
Oh,
have you talk about
interesting.
what you thought about this season.
I'm curious on why you want to go last. It's either so you can just yuck our yum,
Maybe.
or you are going to crap just awesome stuff all over us. I'm excited. All right.
To clear the air here a little bit, Levi, I've been teasing Nick with what I thought about this season for a long time because I've been kind of like because he loves it. He loves like all Stranger Things. I'm assuming he loves this season as well. And I'm like, it's doing something. I'll tell you when I get to the
Yeah, he said it's
podcast.
doing something. It's like, oh, good something. He's like, it's doing something. I'm like, oh my god,
Kind of
dude.
like,
What?
yeah. Oh,
Like,
so like he said, like, oh, that's good. Then it's like, I'm not saying it's good. I'm just saying the show is having, it's doing something.
This is like a
Not that.
repeat of Multiverse of Madness
It
podcast.
is.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it is.
he's doing payback. I gave him a panic attack for some reason, so
Yeah.
it is
Now
what it is.
now it's payback.
Fair enough.
Basically, you get it. You get it.
Full circle. All right, Levi. I think I'm pretty close to where you hold this show.
Mhm.
I think the way I would rate this show is that I think I would actually argue that it is the best season so far. And I don't really want to, and I don't think we'll score it tonight because obviously there's still 2 episodes left, so it'd feel weird.
Right.
Maybe we could do like a tentative, like if it keeps this up, I could see it going here, but that's just kind of weird. But I definitely am feeling like this is the strongest season, but because it is so much longer and more dense than any of the other seasons that have felt in some ways like, man, I wish we could have just had like 2 more episodes. We finally got that. And so I think if there are some flaws in this show, because it's dragged out longer, it could in some ways have like a greater amount of flaws. But I feel like some of its heights are like some of the greatest it's ever been. And so like in some ways I would be like 1 was super clean. Season 1 was super clean. Probably didn't have that many issues with it. But I don't know if it's highs whereas like grand as season 4's part 1 were.
Right.
And so I'm coming in pretty like I'm pretty high on this show.
Mhm.
I enjoyed a lot of the things they did. Trying to think of avoiding spoilers. One of the things Stranger Things is known for is trying to mix up the party because the party is never like always together.
Mhm.
They are kind of somewhat separated throughout the seasons in some ways because they have to kind of divide and conquer. But this show, like Levi was talking about in the trailer, like set the tone so well of separate ways. I mean, the whole
Mhm.
song, they really used the song as like a lot of plot throughout this season, and I'll dive into that when we get into spoilers because there's a particular couple songs that even like kind of foreshadow what's going to happen in the future. And I think Journey's Separate Ways, in some ways, was like prophetic for season 4.
Yeah.
Was like it talks about love being really incredibly important, which I think does play a huge
Mhm.
role in this season.
Yeah.
But they are incredibly like this is the season where it is scary to be separated, and this is the most
Mhm.
separated our team has ever been. And it's
Yeah.
the most scared they've ever been, not only from the monsters in this show, but probably from growing up as well.
Mhm.
Which really I think just ties into the whole childhood nostalgia of it. This is the first time that we're dealing with like semi-adult
Yeah.
problems with kids that are finally having to toy around with that.
Mhm.
And yes, there is a boogeyman, but there's also just maturity and like which one's scarier. And I think they're both just like, depends
College
on the day.
applications.
You know, it's like so I just find that to be incredibly like what a grounded supernatural show.
Mhm.
Which is crazy to even say that in a sentence.
Yeah.
So that's where
interesting.
I would leave my spoiler free thoughts. And I'm gonna mute Michael from here on out. All right.
Oh boy.
Good
Here we
luck,
go.
everybody. Grab
You
your
know,
Michelobes, everybody.
guys, I hate to be just a bearer of different news. I'm gonna have to just disagree with you both and say that definitively this is the best season of Stranger Things.
Yeah.
The
twist is
He got his
revealed.
answers. Got his answers. I'm shaking my chair.
Yes, that's exactly right. I got answers. There's momentum to the show that hasn't been there in the past
Hell yeah,
few
dude.
seasons. I think this show is everything that I wanted it to be. I think
Let's go.
Continue. Sorry.
I think season 1 is great, and it's always going to be that great season of just like a really clean. Clean is the best way
It's
to
almost
do
like
it.
an indie project, and now they're like,
and now it's just like
now we
wow, they
have
have money
money.
to it, and it's like, oh wait, now we can actually do some nuts things in this. So it's like
Oh yeah.
it's and it is beautiful to see. Where like I felt like 2 and 3 were just treading so much water, and 4 is like And yeah, maybe 2 and 3 are like lifting up the story into like so 4 can be this great.
Right.
But 4, it's great. I
Yep.
think it's really, really good.
Mhm.
I think there's one episode in particular that is hands down the best episode of the entire season.
Mm.
And I liked it a lot, and I think what
This is gonna be so much more fun
yeah
than 5 minutes
It's
gonna
gonna be
be.
great.
yeah, no more defense for you
You know what?
guys.
I'm gonna say it, obviously for the first time, shout outs to my boy Levi. Let's go!
Let's go.
Yeah, we've never said that before. Yeah, this is going to be the exact opposite of our review
Oh.
of Multiverse of Madness. I will be with you guys.
I'm
till
so
the end.
relieved, dude. I've been stressing
go.
this like freaking crazy. It's fine. Actually, you know what? Sometimes having disagreement, I think, allows us to have just as good of
I
podcast
agree.
episodes than when we agree.
Multiverse was one of our good podcasts
Oh,
because we were able
absolutely.
to like
Yeah,
disagree. Now it's just be like, yeah, it was really good.
for sure. Sometimes you need a little,
Um,
you know?
But yeah, I just really enjoyed it. I think part of my dislike of Stranger Things was I'm not the biggest like, 80s nostalgia fan. I'm not like, ah yes, I grew up on The Goonies and other 80s things. And it's like, I mean, yeah, I just
You're
talked
like
about my
a
love for
generation above
yeah,
that.
I
Yeah.
am. And I never like that was never like, oh, and yeah, D&D has not been a part of my life or like I just like a lot and I think like there's been so much of a nostalgic kick. Like if you just throw 80s things into something, it automatically is apparently good. It's like so like I was like
Sure.
feeding off of that nostalgia. So a lot of that like negativity kind of bled into Stranger Things for me.
Mm-hmm.
Where this I don't this just stands on its own, and I think yeah, it gives us the answers. I think
Yeah.
it's not like haha the 80s isn't that cool,
Sure.
but
Yeah.
yeah, I loved it.
This is very much and I know we use Marvel terms a lot around this podcast, but I mean this very much is the Infinity War of the Stranger Things like saga.
No
It's
doubt.
clearly building up that way. And one of the things that's noticeably different about Infinity War and Endgame was that they didn't try to just make it a formula. You could tell there was like this little like extra effort of just like, and now it's time for it to pay off.
Yes.
So I think they hear what you're saying and going like, look, I know 2 and 3 did a lot of world building and probably didn't peak, but trust me, spending enough time with these characters so that when we do finally give you those
Yeah.
answers, it will feel a lot more
Oh,
satisfying
that's
than
100% right.
just rushing into it.
Yeah, I mean, like
Yeah.
characters from the previous seasons that I were like lukewarm on are like some of my favorite characters in this
Yeah.
season.
Yeah, it is interesting because I do want to get into some of when we get into spoilers here. There are definitely some plots that, and we can't speak towards how they're going to finish because there's obviously still 4 hours of
Content.
of content left. So like we can't be like, well, wow, they really shit the bed on this one. It's like, well, they might have just also pushed it until this, you know. So all right. Are there any other spoiler-free thoughts before we
Do
do
we
this
want to
thing?
give a score?
Like
No.
an initial, like we did last time, and then a final.
I don't know. It feels weird.
It does feel weird to be
I
like,
guess it's
fair.
kind of like Dune. I guess we did technically give Dune a score, but it was like with an
but that's still
asterisk.
contained.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. I don't know. This feels weird.
It would be good to I think it would be good to retrospective in the second part of this episode
Okay.
to
So
score.
tentatively, if it continues with this is what you would give,
if
or
it-
you're just going.
Honestly, if it just ended right now, if this
Okay,
was
if
season
this was
4,
the soft
if this was season 4,
finale. Okay.
and then season 5 is the next. That's
Interesting.
interesting how I'm thinking of it right now. It's like this was season 4.
Okay.
This was
And
it.
then we're gonna get like 4.5, and then 5 is kind of what you're looking at.
I feel like the next 2 episodes are 5 in my mind. But
Right. I don't
They
think they're going
kind-
to come out and say that because, like, a part of me thought, like, is that why they're making them so long? Is they're going to pull a fast one on us? Be like, there is no season 5. It's just these last 2 episodes, and the show's over. But I don't think
would like
that's
that
the
a lot,
case. I don't think that's the
but
case.
I
I think
don't-
there's still too many things that they're building towards a conclusion that are going to set up season 5,
Yeah.
and I'll get into
Yeah.
that with spoilers. But
But
that's fine. Let's go ahead and rate
yeah,
it.
I just think we'll rate it,
Okay.
and then we can come back to it and be like, oh, actually, this and this
Okay.
and this.
Since you went last, you start.
Okay, I'll probably give it like a 9.
Yeah. Okay.
I loved it. I think there's some things where I'm like, but also I just enjoyed it a lot. So
Yeah.
it's a 9 for me.
I agree.
I could see it going down to an 8.5, but
Yeah.
that's its range for me.
Yeah. I think with there's a few things that I think I'm like, ooh, that plot didn't really, but again, like I can't say for certain that it won't ever. But I also don't care about the characters that the plot didn't really focus on as much, so I'm also like not partial to being like, damn it, why didn't they do that? So I think I'm with you. I think I'm also at a 9.
Okay.
Yeah,
Alright.
I'm gonna agree.
Whoa,
'Cause I think
triple nines. Let's
triple
go.
nines. I think that the season 1 was like a 9.5. Like after rewatching it after rewatching it for the second time, I still got the same feels as if I was watching it the first time, even though I knew what was gonna
Yeah.
happen. Like
Mhm.
certain things gave me chills and got me excited and hyped and blah blah blah. And then this is just like such a close second, so I'm also gonna give it a 9.
Okay.
Okay.
Cool.
And by far the most connected to season 1
Oh, for
Yeah.
out of
sure.
the 4
It's
seasons
almost
without
like 2
spoiling
and
anything.
3 didn't really exist except for new for characters, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, I've got some theories.
Okay.
Anyway,
I'm
all right.
excited. Let's move into
All
spoilers,
right, we're
boys.
doing spoilers. I mean, we've obviously talked a few spoilers from the previous seasons, but it's just fair to state that everything Stranger Things that has happened that's been out so far is fair game.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
if you haven't seen it at all, please go check it out cuz this is definitely the one to like not get spoiled cuz
I agree.
this is where you
No doubt.
finally get some big answers.
Yeah.
So,
Ah, boy.
okay.
Let's go.
How do we want to start?
I've got a few avenues.
11
Okay.
dies. Just kidding.
Oh yeah. When the part that 11 dies, that was insane.
No, just kidding.
When
Deep fake.
Dumbledore killed Harry Potter, it was nuts.
I don't want to like cage you guys in. So if there's something that you guys are just like, boy, got to talk
I
about
think
this.
we'll get there.
Okay, so we're just good at
I
just
think
kind of like
let's
easing
just
into
take
it.
some routes
Okay.
and
Then I think the best thing to talk about first is probably what's new,
Mhm.
and then we can dive into what's old that's coming back because that's where the depth is gonna like really take
yeah.
over. And so
So when you say new,
new characters,
Mhm.
the
new
plot
villain.
itself that's kind of taking over.
Yeah.
What was kind of like your guys' favorite new stuff that was kind of added this season that wasn't in previous seasons?
Vecna.
Yeah, you like
I mean,
Vecna?
just to be like, I mean, so I mean, yes, I love Vecna. I think he's an insane character, and
Mm,
I mean, I don't. Well, it is spoilers, and so I'll just kind of say what we find out at the end of episode 7 is the first time we've ever had a character from our world be the villain in the other world.
Yeah.
sick.
And so that's like, so obviously, I mean, we didn't know that
Yeah,
in
Michael just
episode
figured that
1.
out 10 minutes ago.
So
30
sick.
minutes ago I figured that out.
Had to
So
watch
it
it right
was
before
just
that.
like, and the way he takes his victims is just so
Mhm.
gruesome, and it's
Mm.
like, it's
Did
so
you
different than what we've gotten so far, and it's just, I love it.
did either of you watch it with the subtitles on?
No, why?
No.
Whenever Vecna like does stuff, they have to tell you what noises Vecna makes, and so it just always says squelching wetly. And I couldn't describe him better myself.
Yeah.
He is just a wet, squelchy glizzy of a man.
Just Squidward.
Just tentacles and just mm-mm-mm. And honestly, they said that he is 90% practical. He's
Wow.
not CGI'd.
Hey, right on.
There's a guy, well, obviously the actor who played grown
One.
up Henry, Peter One, whatever the hell his name
Yeah.
is
Numero
actually
uno.
him in makeup, and he had to do like
Interesting.
7 hours
I
of
didn't know
makeup
that. That's
and like
cool.
get the whole thing put
Oh,
on and
nice.
everything. So
That's sick.
that's why it looks so good.
Yeah.
Because really the CGI is just the tentacles that kind of grow up and down his shoulders
That's
and
cool.
stuff like that. Most of it's just real.
Yeah, I would definitely agree that Vecna is a strong part of this season.
Yeah.
I think also what's been kind of lacking is a distinct villain of like I
Sure.
think like of some that isn't just like this ethereal Dang it.
Well, we can't understand the mind flayer because the
Yeah,
mind
like
flayer doesn't talk.
yeah, exactly. Like this, yeah, this like human
He's just
embodiment of this
pissed.
villain. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's just like, oh, here's a big squid thing.
Yeah.
Got to get the squid thing, and this is like,
Right.
okay, there's more of a relation to this
Yeah.
character. There's more of a okay, this person, and then the way that it's
Yeah.
gruesome, like the way that the murders happen, the way that he infects the minds of these people.
Yep.
He's the best villain.
I will argue though now the mind flayer seemingly looking a lot like a spider makes a lot more sense after this season,
Okay,
Yeah.
that
right?
is
Because
true.
Vecna had an incredible,
The Black Widow stuff.
yeah, he had some weird obsession with spiders,
Oh, that is true.
and so the question, I mean, I have, and I mean, we can theorize this and we can do this later if you guys want, but who is in control? Are they all one? Is
Mhm.
because
Yeah.
Dustin tries to kind of give us like a little feed into this and being like, Vecna's the 5-star general for the Mind Flayer. It's like, I don't know, Vecna kind of feels like he's running
The
the
guy.
thing, but at the
Yeah,
same
he's
time, Vecna also feels almost like the most vulnerable of the three villains. The Demogorgon just kicks ass and only can die if like 5 people with flamethrowers scorch it. The
mhm.
Mind Flayer's unbeatable unless you close a gate. Vecna kind of can like be stunned and like is obviously the most human of the 3 enemies, and so in some ways seems like the most powerful and simultaneously the most like flawed and could be like have some weak spots. So I'm like interested to
Yeah,
like
I'm.
who is he?
Mhm.
Is he
Yeah,
actually the big bad?
I
I
think
don't know.
it would be interesting, and it would be tough to do something more than him in the next season of the bigger bad. I think it'd be too detached from the story of
So
from
you
like
think
our
Vecna
heroes.
maybe makes it out at the end of this season and then just
I
kind of
I kind of want him to be the big bad. I don't know because like
sure,
if you I don't like how it's like each season's kind of contained with its villain.
sure,
So I
Mhm.
think it just doesn't feel like if Vecna is in the end of season 4 is the end of Vecna, then it's like, well, now we got to start from the ground up again for
yeah,
season 5, and it's the big end of the season. It's like
sure,
I I I I think they have a good villain in him, um, where I wouldn't be mad if they carry it over.
Right.
yeah,
So similar to like the Infinity War and Endgame route. I mean, like obviously Vecna was never teased in seasons 1 through 3, but he's
yeah,
kind of like the Thanos of. He
Sure,
could be the
yeah,
Thanos of Stranger Things, where he's the
big
big
bald
main
guy.
villain
hmm
in season 4. Maybe he wins. Maybe our crew loses, and he's like in control,
I
or
love that.
is like
I love that.
like in this. Maybe he makes it to our world, and he's just lurking in the shadows
yeah,
instead of on the in the upside down. And then season 5 is the kind of the big
that could be.
resolve. But
hmm
one thing I really do like about Vecna is that, like you were talking about earlier, Michael, with the comparisons to Stephen King, um, like it or Pennywise, his thing is he makes his victims feel
Mm,
fear, which
yeah.
obviously makes them taste better. And then with Vecna, it's not like he feeds off their fear, but he just haunts them with their past
Yeah.
trauma. And so
Mhm.
it's
But he
like there's
does level up
similarities.
though. They did
He
like
does.
acknowledge that every kill makes him stronger.
Mm.
Hmm. Yeah, so there is that aspect, but it's just like you're saying, the
hmm
similarity. It's like just kind of paying homage to Stephen King. So I thought that was pretty cool. But yeah,
Yeah.
definitely a dope villain.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think a lot of people were like, "Ah, he's the Freddy Krueger of the season." But like I could mind that he was Pennywise.
Yeah, no,
I mean, he was very much
that's
Pennywise.
exactly what Pennywise does.
Yeah.
Like you're saying,
Hmm.
Levi, it's just like he wants the fear in them,
Hmm.
and so he preys on these people
hmm
have had these traumas.
Yeah.
And so I think another thing that I enjoy about this season is consequences are a factor. Like
Hmm.
it feels like through the most of the seasons and like with I don't know media in general, sometimes it's like the good guy wins and then nothing happens.
Right.
And so like this is like okay, there are consequences to what has happened previously. There are decisions that mean something. Like not yeah, characters aren't like dying, but like
Yeah.
things mean something. And
Yeah.
so like Max, I think her character is just amazing throughout the
Yeah, they
season.
killed it.
They
Yeah.
loved everything they're doing with Max, and just like there are consequences to actions. Like even with Vecna, Vecna is a sins of the past
Yeah.
basically, or like
Hmm.
now there's the relationship with Vecna and 11,
Mhm.
and so I just think it's all tying very nicely together. So
Well,
Mhm.
and what's interesting is now that we know kind of why he targets who he targets, you can now start to see similarities even in like season 3. Like Billy
mm,
Mm.
makes perfect sense that he would be targeted by
right,
whatever's in the Upside Down. I mean, that dude's tortured.
hmm
Yeah.
Um, the dude's going through a lot of pain. He lost his mom and kind of like blames himself, and then became a bully, and then his dad's a piece, and
hmm
all that stuff. And
Mhm.
so like that stuff starts to kind of like connect. I mean, obviously not when the meat flare was taken over, and you know when everybody got all goopy, and
what?
Mhm.
the meat instead of mind flayer, the meat flare in season 3 when they
Oh,
Where
got all
everybody just
goopy.
turns into like mush.
Um,
oh,
it wasn't clear that all of those people were like necessarily like
oh, right,
tragic people,
yeah,
but it does appear that like the main ones, even Will. I mean, for some reason, the Duffer Brothers are like, hey, how can we make Will just suffer a little bit more? Because they're really like going after him. And it's like, was he the suffering one from the beginning and the
mm,
Demogorgon got his scent? Like, is this all connected? I don't
right,
know. There's only theories at this point,
yeah,
but
Mhm.
I've got some stuff to say about Will, but I kind of want to like get everyone. I kind of want to do like what the show did and like talk about every character and get them up to a certain point first before we go to the next one,
yeah,
and then
Mhm.
we'll launch into like what we think is going to happen for 8 and 9.
mm,
Because um, yeah, I've got some stuff I want to say about that. So
okay,
Mhm.
so yeah, Vecna. Um, were any of you? So typically when we get information that's added that happened before the events that we've ever known about in a show, I usually get pissed off because I'm like,
oh,
how was
sure,
I ever supposed to predict that? But this show was very primed to already say that shit's been going down for a while at
yeah,
Hawkins National Lab, so it doesn't bother me that like
yeah,
they did this with 11 and
Mhm.
um 1 and Vecna or whatever, like all that stuff. When that first came to be where I was like, "Oh, we're in 79 now." I think my initial reaction would have been like, "Come on, now there's gonna retcon something like
yeah,
11 super powerful, and then like now she's just nerfed." But then they covered it. They like figured it out. They're
yeah.
like, "Here's why
No,
11 got
I
nerfed.
think
I
that
mean, it's the most traumatic thing she's ever been through."
Mhm.
That sort of
Yep.
thing. I
100%
thought they
agree.
were very clean with their writing. Where I was like, don't just add like this whole Creel storyline, which Victor Creel is played by Freddy Krueger, which
That's
Mhm.
was
so
kind of a
cool.
cool little
Yeah,
touch. I thought was kind of neat. The dad of Vecna was literally Freddy Krueger.
yeah, that's insane.
That's pretty wild. Uh, but the whole Creel thing, like I was like, why haven't we like? Why didn't Hopper say like the last time there were this many murders in a house? It was back when Creel,
Yeah,
like 2 seasons ago, where I was like, come on, somebody like catch me up on this. But they did a good job of like I think they did say at one point, he's like, there hasn't been a murder in like 30 years, and that's
yeah,
about
Mhm.
lines up with when they did it. And
yeah,
so like they at least
I,
touched on it, but I think they um usually that would piss me off, but I think they did a good job of like adding something that we never could have guessed would have been added, and it wasn't bad. Like
yes,
they made good use of the Creel storyline. What did you guys
Right.
think of that?
Yeah. I It's obviously really, like you said, really cool seeing Robert England in prison and in like in his state.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like how it wasn't in any way, shape, or form tied to any of the first 3 seasons. Nothing with the original characters, with the original storyline. It was just like its own thing. Like this happened
yeah,
years ago, could not have been explained. Nobody
hmm
could figure out. Everybody just thought it was Victor who did it, and case solved. Put in the bookshelf.
Hmm.
30 years later, these kids figure it out. So I really did enjoy that aspect of it, how it was just like a total mystery, completely new, but still very much so connected to what's happening in season 4, obviously, currently. The only thing that I still have, like, I understand why things haven't been going on for the past, those same murders haven't been going on for the past 30 years, but it's like, why did number one not have his powers? Was it that device in his neck that was like literally inhibiting him from
Yeah,
using
I
his
think there was
powers?
some
He
kind of
got
the
nerfed.
thing in his neck.
Okay, I didn't
Because
know if
when
it was like a
11 pulled it out,
tracker or
Well, and they
something,
had
but
to
something
keep
suppressor.
the reason. Yeah, I was a little. That was like, did I find a plot hole here? Like, why would you leave crazy psycho dude alive? But
mhm,
like, he was literally getting like being used to create more people.
Yes.
Like, I
yeah,
mean, like
just nerfed.
he's the source.
Mhm,
Um, and so I was like sitting there going like, why would Brender not just like kill this guy? Like he's an evil dude. Why wouldn't he just do it? But then it all kind of added up. It's like
Oh
nerf
no,
him, and then
yeah, it makes sense. I mean, like I don't think he would ever want to kill him because then it's over.
he's the
Then it's
OG.
like, oh,
mhm,
then it's like, oh, because I can control him because I can do X, Y,
Yeah,
Z, and it's like,
but it is interesting. Like, is he just literally an organic supernatural
yeah,
being?
like
That's
where does
very
that come
interesting.
from? Yeah,
Yeah. Um.
I don't know because I think the underground or the upside down existed.
Yes.
So like, was he tapping into that or something?
Right. Can
And
the upside down already have an influence in the
hmm
real world?
yeah.
mhm,
Yeah.
yeah,
And so I think Nick, exactly what you're saying of like, man, when we start getting some flashbacks, I'm like, I sometimes it's like,
Classic.
oh yeah,
This is
here we
bad
go,
storytelling. You
yeah,
should have
and so
told
it's
us
like,
ahead of
yeah,
time.
that's like the rules, never do any flashbacks. But they did it.
mhm,
I think they did it so well, and they laid the breadcrumbs out to be like, oh wait, you could actually figure this out if you were
Hmm.
like really paying attention. Um,
For sure.
and again,
mhm,
yeah, bringing it back to it, it's like every 27 years or X
Exactly.
whatever time of like
Hmm.
I like this history of this town is cursed. There is this curse in this town, and so like the upside down maybe has some kind of thing here where it's
Hmm.
like connected, and that
yeah,
could be
Yeah.
like something that Vecna was touching into when he was a kid.
Yeah.
Um, and then just 11 opening up the portal in that way because of something I think we're gonna figure out more. But yeah, I
mhm,
think they did a great job uh,
yeah.
unraveling
Wasn't
all of that.
Hmm.
wasn't there at some point in the show when they did the flashback for Victor and his family, didn't he say that the house that they got was like either really cheap or he got it because something happened in
Yeah,
there?
something was up with the house, right?
So
Oh
like
yeah.
maybe
I think
the
so.
upside down has a specific connection to that house
Mm,
It
and the
could
kid
mm,
just
for
kind
sure.
of explored the
And
attic.
I should have seen that a mile away. That kid
yeah.
looked way off in that family the whole time, and I was like, "That's weird." Anyway, it's
But
like
they
we saw this, and it's like, of course it was that kid. That kid is way too like the characteristics of his face and everything. I was just like,
yeah.
he sticks out,
Hmm. But
but
like you
he
wouldn't you
blended
didn't
in
catch
just
it.
enough. Yeah,
No, that's
Yeah,
the
you,
beauty of it. Yeah.
yeah, it's insane. They did a great job.
mhm,
The other thing I will say too is seeing the upside down. We kind of have like two versions of it now,
Okay.
where there's like the one when Vecna basically gets sent into it, and it's just a cloudy,
Mm,
weird red hellscape.
yeah.
And then there's the upside down, which is this dark, dank, cold
replica.
of Hawkins with vines all over it. And I'm like, okay, so when
When is it
when
the
did
yeah.
Hawkins appear? Like when she opened the gate, did it like imprint Hawkins
Mm,
into it, and that's why it stayed November 6th, 1983, like when Nancy opens up her diary and it's like
yeah, but that
three
was when Will was taken.
or when Will was taken when the Demogorgon came into the world. That's
Yeah.
when she opened the gate.
See, but that was after.
Oh,
I'm pretty
okay.
sure that's after Vecna got sent through. So why didn't
Right.
the
So she
world?
created like a temporary thing to just send him in, but she didn't
Okay,
like
gotcha.
open the gate out of fear where it bled into our
Got it.
world. She
Yeah.
just
Okay.
sent him. And she was thinking good thoughts. Like she kind of did her like favorite song
Yes.
when she
Hmm.
attacked him,
Yeah.
where she was thinking of good things, where she was like born into the arms of her mom and like
Yep.
seeing all these really good things, which is
Pretty sure it
also
was like
weird.
I thought the opposite, where she was born and then she was ripped away from that, and so she used it. It
Oh,
was
you're
her
right. It
anger.
was like think a sad,
Yeah, sad
but
things that
yeah,
make
you're
you
right.
angry.
The irony of it though was like the weird part was that like she was literally getting like pushed out of the birth canal, and
Oh,
that was like red and lightning, and then she sent him into like a birth canal
yeah.
kind of a thing. Like it was kind of weird. Like the upside down's like, okay, so did you send him through like a big supernatural vagina? Like I'm confused. Are all gates vaginas now? Like I don't know what just happened. Like it just changed the whole game. Anyway, so You have that to look forward to. But anyway,
Yeah.
so
Well,
yeah,
it
that
was
was just
yeah.
weird.
It was cool too. Like I just thought of this now. I didn't even realize it at the time, but she kind of like Thanos snapped him into the freaking upside down because he kind of
Mhm.
turned a little ashy and then kind of sucked inward and then got sent through and kind of
Yeah, it's like the Demogorgon kind of,
yeah.
but like from season 1 when
Mhm.
Yeah,
she
yeah,
like puts him up
exactly.
against the wall and then just
Mhm.
pew,
Yeah.
pew.
Did you guys
Um,
have any? So this is one of the questions I wanted to ask you. Did you guys have any inclination that he was number one when he shared the story of number one and how he was quote unquote killed? Um,
No,
you
but
know,
I should have.
see, like, okay, because like
yeah.
when I watched it, I was like, "Is he number one?" Question mark. I was never confirmed, but I had my suspicion. And then when
The
it
only
was
time I
revealed,
knew it was number 1 was when she took the thing out of his neck. I'm like, "Oh, dang. Okay."
yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah, that
think
too. Hmm.
I'm not super good at predicting a lot of things. I'm really good in retrospect going like connecting the dots.
Hmm.
That one, he just had a little too many lines for me to go like, what's your what's your play
What you
here?
what
Like
you
what
doing?
like was your whole thing just to lead her to the sewer that she would eventually escape from later
Hmm.
on, 4 years later for season 1? I
Right.
got that. That part was cool.
Hmm.
I was just like, this is like a lot of screen time for you to just lead her to a tunnel.
Right.
Mhm.
So I knew
There's
something
got to
more was
be
coming.
yeah. There's got to be some sort of greater
But
purpose
if
for
you would
you
have asked
here.
me, Nick, do you think this creepy dude who plays creepy dudes is gonna play the main creepy dude in this creepy show? I would have still said, nah,
No,
you
what are you talking
tripping.
about? What are you talking about? That's
Also, do you
You're
think he's
tripping.
the creepy kid who's also the creepy slimy man?
yeah.
See,
Never in a million years.
I never made that. Obviously, never made
Yeah,
that
Beck
connection
never.
between
Never.
and the kid and him
Yeah,
as an
something was up
adult.
with him. Like they're like he's sensitive and he
Hmm.
was in a coma, and I was like, man, Vecna sucks at being Vecna because he like kills the daughter and the mom really
Yeah.
good.
Uh
And then the
huh.
dad's like, "Hey, but I heard that song on the radio." And then the kid's just like, "And I guess I'm in a coma." I'm like,
What?
"Anyway." And then I just like went on to the next episode.
Yeah, no, that's tricky because it's like I think when you're dealing with those supernatural kind of things, it's like, it's kind of a gray
Sure,
area.
was Vecna just like practicing and was like, "Hey, I'm really good at killing these two," and I just kind of sucked at these, but it's like, but everything else has been
Yeah.
Vecna's like on a
So like it's all
he's
there.
undefeated,
Yeah,
but
it's
like he's
it's
good.
yeah, it's good because it's all there because it was Vecna before Vecna, right? Because like
Mhm.
what I was tripped up on was, oh, why would he play the music if if he knew the music was good, then why would he like start the home attack with music? And so
Mhm.
that was like a stumbling block for me. I was like, why did he do that? But then it was just like
It's like
early
decoy to
Vecna,
like
just like
allow for the electricity to flicker and be
yeah,
like, "Oh shit, supernatural
yeah.
things," you know, like
So
yeah.
like it was all there,
Hmm.
Mhm.
Well, did
but
he know that the music was not good before he killed his family?
No, but I mean, he'd only practice on squirrels, so I mean, the squirrels aren't jamming out to the
Right.
Beach Boys.
I don't
Well,
know.
and he also did say like when he talked about what happened at the very last episode, he did say like he took his powers too far and that he almost literally killed himself.
Right, yeah.
So like he was like trying to fight the music that was in his
Mm,
dad's ear, and he was
Mhm.
trying to just do it, but he couldn't. And then he passes out, goes into a coma, et cetera, et cetera. So
Right.
like maybe he was just trying too hard and just didn't understand why it wasn't working on him, and it was so easy for his mom and his sister to just be
Mhm.
done.
Yeah. This leads us to our first question that we came up with, though, which is, I think Michael, you asked it.
oh, yeah. I thought this would be a funny idea of because in the movie or in the show, Max they find out that music is kind of a gateway to get back into
Reality, yeah.
life
Mhm.
to
Hmm.
reality to literally save you. And then from that moment on, she has to listen to the same song over and over and over again, which
So
is a banger of a song.
let's go.
But my question was, if you two had a song that you had to listen to basically on repeat for the rest of your life to literally save your life,
Yeah,
what would that song be?
it's a great question, and I have two answers.
Okay.
One is if it happened today, here's the song that would obviously pull me out of Vecna's curse,
Mm,
and that is "Come to Me" by the Goo Goo Dolls.
okay.
That's the song that my wife walked down the aisle to. I mean, as soon as I
Oh.
would hear that, I would literally just be like, "Okay, where am I running?" Because I know where you're at. You know,
Mm,
like
Mm-hmm.
100%.
Cool.
That's
I'm
the
crying
answer.
now. That's great.
If I was in, 86 or whatever this was, it would 110% be Love Gun by Kiss.
Ouch.
Okay.
Those are the two most different answers I've ever heard in my life. This one about my wife, and I love her.
So
I know
yeah,
she's
and
like
then,
my
here's
rock,
a
my
rock song
signal.
that's literally about a
Anyways,
guy
Love
singing about
Gun.
his penis. Anyway, okay. So anyway, but yes, the
That's
Goo Goo
funny.
Dolls was singing "Come to Me" would be like, oh yeah, that's the, I love it.
Okay, I like that.
All right, Levi, why is
Mm.
Stacy's mom your choice? I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
Because she's got it
Dude,
going on.
how'd you know? You must be Vecna, bro. You just know everything.
Did I literally guess it? Damn.
No. Michael, you're gonna know the answer to this.
Yeah.
And it's got to be "Failure" by Breaking Benjamin. Like
Ooh.
that is just it's just like such a song that I connect with, and I know that if I was in any situation, happy, sad, angry, frustrated, I could always just feel at peace with that song and
Nice.
just rock out and love it, and even on repeat, just over and over and over again.
Mhm.
Definitely. I don't think I could pick another one. Like if I had to go, well, if I had to go back to like the 80s, um, it would probably have to be. Well, I don't. Is this "Dream On" by Aerosmith?
Oh, yeah,
Sure.
that's 80s.
I
Yeah.
don't. Is
Think
that? Yeah,
so.
that's 80s. I
Yeah,
mean,
definitely not 90s. It's 80s,
yeah.
70s,
Yeah. 70s, 80s.
70s.
Yeah, it would be
Yeah,
out by now.
so
I
Yeah.
think.
I think yeah, "Dream On" by Aerosmith would probably have to be my 80s pick. There are so many good 80s ones, but that
It's
would
very meta.
probably yeah, those
Because
two
Dream
you're
for
on.
sure.
literally in a dream and you
Whoa,
gotta keep
Literally.
dream on. Maybe dream off.
Dream off.
Out of here.
Flame
Dream
off.
off. Dream off. You like record your own version of it.
Just have like
So
an audio
Michael,
file over on
Yeah.
and just like be off. Not even
Dream
just like
off. Dream
dream
off.
off. Yeah. So Michael, what song
yeah,
would you
which
have?
Bo Burnham song is getting you
Oh,
out of
jeez.
Vecna's?
Whoa.
So many avenues I could have gone. It's so hard to. Pick your favorite song. Jeez. I had two. One I was very similar to what you were thinking of, Nick, of like if there was an 80s song.
Mhm.
And the first song that came to my mind was Bohemian Rhapsody by Queen.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Because like I think if there's a song that I would listen to for the rest of my life,
Mm.
that has some levels to it where it fluctuates
Yeah.
between
Mhm.
like
Sure.
soft and then
Yeah.
amps up, and then like if you hear it in the background, then I can just like with hers it like ramped up as she was running out and just like
Sure. Yeah.
bum, bum,
Yeah.
bum, bum, bum,
That
bum,
whole
bum.
scene
Yeah.
was like, this is where the $30 million went.
Yeah.
So got it.
Um, yeah, so that would have been my 80s. I don't know, man. It's tough to be like, this is the song that would pull me out no matter what. Um, I could go so many different directions. But it's probably All Time Low by John Bellion, which is like,
Hmm.
have you heard that song?
Mhm.
I'd have to be reminded of it.
It's like, no, I'm at an all time low, 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 low.
Oh
low.
yeah,
That one. I just love that song, and it was.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh well, no, you're good.
Oh, that was just a good song. Like I remember specifically that song being like, "Hey, I relate to this song," and it kind of pulled me out. Not in like
Yeah.
that sense, but like
Sure.
I was like, okay, it helped, and I
Yeah.
love that song. So,
Yeah.
Pull out game strong.
Let's go. Let's go.
as in the words of Levi, let's go.
It's such an incredible scene because like if that wasn't her favorite song and it truly was like something like, like Stacy's mom, it would be a hilarious scene. Like Vecna's like, "Oh, I've got you. I'm going to eat you up." And then it's like Stacy's mom has got it. You're like, "I'm going, see ya. Stacy's mom's got it going on. Suck it, Vecna." Like it's just hilarious that like when you think about the grand scheme, it's like what if her like favorite song was like a Weird Al song or just like some weird, just like, Bohemian Rhapsody would even be kind of wild, or I'm just trying to think of like funny things. I mean, even Love Gun would be hilarious. I'd just be like, you pull the trigger to my Love Gun, I'm just like, see ya, Vecna. It's just so weird. Like it's just like it's such a weird concept, but when they pick the right song,
picked
it's
the
so
perfect
emotional.
song. Yeah, it's like the song is literally about like
making a
running
deal
up
with
that hill,
God
like
and-
making a deal with God to like switch my places with you because you're in like this pain. And it's like that whole. I hinted towards it. That
Yeah.
episode is the best episode,
Yeah.
hands down. And that moment where
Dear
she runs
Billy,
out, she
yeah.
breaks out of Vecna and she runs out. And
Well, yeah.
it's. I mean, like this season is so great because it deals with stress and it deals with trauma and it deals with like it's basically to me it's about teen suicide. And it's about like teens that are struggling and they turn to something and it ends their life.
Yeah.
And to me, it's like this is the moment, and I think it's so beautiful. This is the moment where like this person, this character, and in a fictional world and this like high brow sci-fi thing, like she basically turns away and chooses life.
Correct.
And this song,
I mean, she wrote letters to everyone.
yeah,
Like,
she
was
wrote letters.
ready.
Yeah, exactly. They were
Which
like
is-
suicide
yeah.
notes, and it's like I think it to me it's so like heartbreaking, but so heartwarming in that like she's choosing life in that moment,
Yeah.
and it's so hard for some people to choose life, and I think
Oof.
I
Yeah.
think there's a point where music can do that to you, and to
Yeah.
bring you out of that, and
Into
I
that,
like
yeah.
just to have that in this show, it's amazing, and so like to me like that will always be all time
Yeah.
to just be great.
Oh,
And so
100%.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, good luck following that, Levi.
Um,
No, but the
I'm
thing
sure
I
I
was
can't.
gonna, the thing I was gonna say too. I mean, like, there's even that dual meaning of why that's probably her favorite song is that like she probably in some ways would switch places with Billy.
with Billy.
You know.
Oh yeah, that's
And
so
so, and that just shows you how. Isn't it wild that like Billy's even like kind of liked?
good. Yeah.
You know, like that's what this show does.
Mhm.
Is it turns even like Billy into a character you're like, damn, dude, like
I
he
did
kind of
like
got
him.
done dirty, didn't he? It's like, no,
Yeah.
he sucked, but we still kind of cared for him because everyone who is flawed had something where you're like, kind of checks out though.
Yeah.
Like I don't know if I'd be, good if I had to deal with the stuff that he had to deal with,
Right.
and stuff. But
Yeah.
I agree. Like that's a really good point in that like there is again this meta narrative that's happening throughout the show, and you're right that season or that episode was wild. But when that scene was happening, I just like looked at Kate and I was like, this is where the $30 million went. Like I see it now. Like I get it, because
Yeah.
I'm sitting there going like, this is twice as expensive as every episode of the last season of Game of Thrones. Where is it going? And then she's running with like these banger songs back behind, and then like obviously a lot of the budget had to go to the songs,
Yeah.
but they did such a good job of curating
What songs?
which ones they were going to
Yeah.
pick. I'd say even like better than any season prior to
Oh,
this.
great.
Some of the songs that they chose, like when literally like lyrics are read, you're like, this is literally a roadmap to what's happening in the show. That's wild. That's crazy. Which leads me to one of my favorite additions to the show, which is Eddie Munson. My boy.
Dude.
I love me some Eddie Munson, dude. Now, granted, he got put on ice real fast after like episode
Yeah.
1 because his arc was that his thing was going to happen and then he basically was going to like go into the upside down. And so like, oh, sorry, you need to like kind of just be on house
Disappear.
arrest for like 5 episodes so everyone can get up to speed.
Yeah.
But that's what happens when you have 8 story arcs, and
Yeah.
Eddie's was like done so fast. But to be thrown in and already be with the big dogs, I mean, this dude's already with the big kids, and like he's doing stuff. To already be lovable, this fat, like it's another Billy for me. Where like even though Billy was like a dick from the start, I was like, nice hair, this guy's hilarious. There's still something about
He's a
him that's
character that we
interesting in
enjoy,
this
yeah.
in this thing. And I thought Eddie's introduction into this show was wild.
Yeah.
I loved
yeah.
his his rant at the cafeteria table about like how the status quo and all that and why he's big into D&D, but his D&D campaign scene was just
Mm-hmm.
So cool.
chef's kiss. Chef's kiss.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
it so much.
That's
What am I too hype on Eddie, or did you guys like Eddie as well?
Well, I liked Eddie.
Oh, good.
Yeah. I really did. Because that's like, I mean, like I guess the latest of the new characters since season 3 is Robin, and she was fine. Like I mean, I like her least. Well, okay, I like her less this season than I did in season 3. I really liked her in season
Yeah.
3, but this season she's just kind of annoying.
Mhm.
She's helpful for sure, but like her
Mhm.
times when she's with Nancy, she's just like, just
Yeah.
it's just like, dude, I feel you, Nancy. Like, just shut up, you know?
Yeah.
But I still enjoy her character. That being said, Eddie is just so different from everybody else that he fits in nicely with the group. As long you know,
Mhm.
he might not be as lovable as Nancy or Mike and Elle and Dustin and all the other Will and all those characters, but I feel like just in these 7 episodes, I've grown to love him as much as I've
Yep.
grown to love Robin
Mm.
since in
Yeah.
season 3. Maybe not as much as the characters we've watched for 3 different seasons, but I still enjoy his character, and the way the actor plays it is just awesome. Like, he's always on edge, but at the same time still cool and like kind of go with the
Mhm.
flow. Like, I don't know. He's a neat character.
Yeah, there's something big gonna happen with him. Like he said something in the last episode, like I'm always the one that's running, and so he's got something.
Well, yeah, I mean the trailer that they showed for this show didn't even show his most iconic scene, which
It's him
there's a
playing the
scene where he's
guitar.
playing the guitar in the upside down and the Demobats are in the sky and he's just fucking rocking, dude.
That's
Yeah.
sick.
So I'm just like, okay, that's pretty awesome.
So hopefully
Which
it's
my
not like
prediction
a
is like, okay, last we were left with them is he jumps into the real world and then Nancy
Mhm.
goes into her trance. Well, you need music to
Mm.
get her out of it, so maybe he goes into the he's like, well,
Whoa.
I got a guitar and he just rocks it.
Love gun, am I right?
Ba-da-da-da, da-da-da-da. Would be sick. But no, the thing I was gonna say was during his campaign scene, there's a couple moments in this that I think are really like interesting and kind of foreshadowing that kind of get I think are just easily like you're just kind of in the hype of the moment because you kind of get the dice rolling and you're like, oh, are they
Yeah,
gonna do it? That you
and
kind of just like,
basketball time too.
but they chose to go with Detroit Rock City by
Mhm.
Kiss, which is like my favorite band of all time. Not because they're good at music, but because they're just crazy. And obviously their songs are good, but they're whatever. Um, but Detroit Rock City talks a lot about time. Um, Throughout the lyrics, like it talks about like it's getting late, you just can't wait, that sort of thing. Like in the 9 o'clock, then the radio's the only light, and it kind of talks about darkness. At one point, he's like, "I hear my song and it pulls me through." In Detroit, it's like
Mm.
interesting.
Interesting choice of words
Why
there.
why would we need a song that can pull us through, and what would it pull us through from? You know, and it's like, are you telling me that the Duffer Brothers took an average rock song and like made it like prophetic
Central
for
theme.
like the entire season?
Yeah.
That like all we had to know was that during the Curse of Vecna D&D that it was literally playing out like here's how to succeed.
Mm,
The song will tell you everything you need to know.
that's insane.
It's like, what the hell, dude? This is crazy. Also, Dustin fails
The first
his
roll.
roll by rolling an 11.
Oh,
Interesting number
interesting number.
to roll, and
Intense.
also that it would fail.
Mhm.
Mm.
And there is a character that is getting built up to succeed that goes by the name of 11.
Mm-hmm.
But it could be foreshadowing for the end, like the Infinity War. The heroes fail. 11's gonna fail against Vecna this time,
I mean,
and
and that's
then
the whole point of the season was that
Whoa, guys.
11,
Oh.
11 was kind of out of commish,
Yeah.
and they're like, how do we even do this without it? We've relied heavily on her.
Yeah.
So everyone's like scared and like, we need to do it. This might end up coming down to like, what if 11 actually just can't
Mm,
and everyone else has to step up?
I love that.
Or because she can't, they do lose this time. And
Yeah.
season 5 is redemption,
It's
and
the
it's
nat
literally
20.
end game.
Mhm.
The other thing
Just pop off.
is there's a lot of weird time talk
Yeah.
throughout this season. A lot of weird time talk. And there's even a particular scene where Henry, developing his powers, looks at the grandfather clock that's been through this entire thing and he reverses it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What's going on there?
The upside down happens to be 3 years in the past.
Mhm.
Are we building towards, and it's crazy not to compare this with Infinity War and Endgame. Season 5 could very well be some sort of time travel. We have to like go back to where
Dude.
it started.
Yo.
I'm just saying, like, there's some weird stuff that this could all be red herrings, and we just wrote a way better season than the Duffer Brothers. I don't know.
Dude, hire us. Like this is it.
But there's also some stuff going on, dude, where it's like you're kind of throwing this in our face. Hopper, I think, mentioned something about time. You can't reverse it or something in his letter at the end of season 3. Joyce says we're all kind of like time travelers in a way. And like there's just some weird stuff where it's like, and then that brings me to Will, who's kind of the boy lost from time, that like he kind of had time taken away from him. His childhood was taken away from him. And they're clearly building him to have some sort of
something.
I don't know, like,
because I feel like Will's been sidelined this.
Will's been sidelined
the entire
sidelined.
show.
They're also like heavily hinting that he's definitely gay.
Oh yeah,
100%.
For sure.
Oh
and
yeah.
he might be gay for Mike.
Oh, 100%.
And Mike's definitely not gay. So like they're kind of like leading him into a spot where I think they're gonna have to be incredibly careful. But like, is Will going to be Vecna's like next victim of like, you want to know who's going to be really vulnerable after all this shit goes down? Will.
Yeah.
And you know who like Will like has only really had a connection to apart from all these like people who are seemingly failing. Like Joyce is like, see ya, going to Alaska. Mike's like, hey, I like you, but I don't like you like I like 11. He's like, oh, well, I kind of like you you
like
should
11.
like me. And you're just like, oh, shit. And then, like, he did, like, his project on Alan, engineer dude from the past who's gay, the imitation game guy, right?
The Turning.
Turning, yeah, he did. And so they're just, like, they're doing all this stuff, and it's like, dude, Will's gonna get shit on again.
Yeah.
And, like, what if Vecna were to somehow manipulate him and be like, what if you could go back and 11 never came into your life? What if you could go back to November 6th when the Demogorgon took you and we just get the Demogorgon to take 11 instead so you can have your friends back and you can have your way?
Yeah.
I just think they have to be really careful of how they handle that because I don't want it to be like, the angry like gay guy didn't get his way, so he gets to be the villain now. It's like you got to be careful of that. I think because
I think you could even do that with the undertone of like even from season 2 is like, why don't we just like play D&D? And maybe that was like because they just want to hang with people. But it's been
building.
Yeah,
you know.
I think there's enough there to be like. I think there's I love the idea of changing the time. I love the idea of like they lose or even they win or win with a caveat. Characters die or something. And they want to go back in time. Man, that sounds awesome.
Yeah, I just think it was weird that they said the upside down particularly was
at a different time
at the day it opened. It's just odd, and time has just been been thrown in our face, and I think we'd be stupid to at least not consider that there might be some sort of time travel ahead of us, you know? I just don't know in what capacity and what it would, because it might be kind of like a soft reboot where season 5 is like, what if we end with him winning, but he like
creates a time loop or something?
Yeah. And we now see that humans can exist and be corrupted by the upside down and turned into things. Like, I don't think Will's going to turn into like a little Vecna Jr. But you can be banished to this place and you can thrive.
Yeah.
Maybe Elle could do that too. Like maybe she fails and she's like, F it. I either die a hero or I live long enough to become a villain. And it's like, if I can't have my powers, maybe I can in the upside down. Like dude, there's some stuff.
Yeah.
They could do some crazy stuff. So that's where my head went when I was just like, oh, you could do this, you could do, and if they would not have seamlessly told, say, well interconnected story in season 4, I couldn't even toy around with this stuff.
Yeah.
If you would have said like season 3, what do you think's happening? Huh, I'd have to say time travel. You know, like no way. Yeah. But what they've done so far, there's something that's going down.
Yeah.
Well, it's
But
just like
I do feel bad for my boy Will. Anyway, go ahead, Levi.
yeah, no, I was just about to say, yeah, like Will has definitely been curbed, and I think it's because he was literally the focus of 2 seasons, the first
Mm.
2. I mean, he was obviously a main character in the 3rd, but not as much as the first 2 because he
Mm.
was affected twice. So, I personally think it would be really cool if Vecna didn't target his past and his past trauma, but targeted his hopes and dreams in the future and just
Mm.
like tricked him like, hey, if you come and help me or you come join me, I can make this all come true for you. I mean, that would be
Yeah.
a long shot because that's never Vecna's never done that, but like I don't know, it would be really cool to see somebody like Will, who we love so much, who's never gotten what he's wanted, um, and see him kind of go to the dark side for a little bit and then, come back maybe in season 5. Because like like one of you said a little bit earlier, that he all he wanted to do was sit in the basement and play D&D. Like that's all he wanted to do. That's like what he loved to do, just be with his friends and just play D&D for hours. And then he leaves and then his friends start to do that. They join this Hellfire Club and they start doing it. Obviously Will doesn't probably know this, but it's like that's kind of messed up. Like you told him no, we don't want to do this, and then he leaves and then you go do it and you
Mm.
Yep.
join this
That's a
club where
good
you
point.
play for hours. So it's like I feel like if he goes back to Hawkins at some point and he finds out like my friends just kind of really didn't care when I wanted to care, but now that
Mhm.
I'm gone, they care again. It's just
Yeah.
like it's just kind of a backstab.
Well, and also when they go to the skating rink where he
Mhm.
third wheels hard, they
Hard.
do they do a like a camcorder and
Mhm.
like film some stuff. And the
Yeah.
date that's on that camera is March 22nd, which is Will's birthday.
Oh.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Oh.
So, and then they all have dinner together with Murray,
Mhm.
but Joyce is so preoccupied
With
with
the singing.
Hopper stuff. Mike's all
Ooh.
preoccupied with L stuff, and he's preoccupied with not getting anything that he wants.
And then
Well.
And
Will and the other
no one wished him a happy birthday, and Jonathan's stoned out of his
Yeah.
mind that you're just like,
Jonathan, the other guy.
they're not really showing any fruit from that, but that could easily be a flashback where he's like,
It was my birthday.
I've always like I've been pissed this entire time. Why hasn't anyone considered me?
Yeah.
You know?
No, I
Yeah.
think maybe that's the point of them sidelining Will just in general in the show. It's just like he's just not getting.
Yeah, like he's neglected to the point where it makes sense that he might make a choice to go
Yeah.
dark, you know?
Yeah. I think, oh man, it's interesting to see like characters go dark recently. Of like, I
Hmm.
mean, Game of Thrones was a thing was like a character went evil, and it's like, this is the dumbest thing. And
Yeah.
and recently with Multiverse of Madness,
Yeah.
and it's just like I think if Will went dark, I'd get it.
Well, and he is kind of the one that's I wouldn't say he himself was supernatural, but having the mind flayer like live in him
There's something to that.
gives a chance for him to kind of already had a taste.
Mhm.
And so like I said, I mean like the only thing that's chosen Will in the last 4 seasons
Oh,
is the villain.
oh man,
I mean,
Oh
Joyce
my
was the greatest
gosh.
mom in season 1, but
dude, you're
like
killing it right now.
Dude, that
this,
puts it
this is
into such a
good.
different perspective,
Mr. Duffer
yo.
Brothers, is this you?
I don't know, it's something to consider. And that's why I'm just like be gentle with like what you're building towards because there has been this like sometimes crudely written role where like the bully is the guy who hasn't quite figured out his
Right.
sexuality and then like kind of takes it out on everybody and then it's like, "Hey, like you can like decide what you want and not also be like evil
Mm.
because of it."
Yeah.
You know, like I think they just need to be careful of like, okay, I could see two things going. Maybe they won't go the villain route and they just go, "Hey, I just need to tell people who I am."
Mm.
But he was
Mhm.
kind of like the outcast of the 4 of them. Like he didn't know if he should cast the fireball at the beginning or if he
Sure.
should cast defense. Like he always needed someone to make the decision for
Mhm.
him, and then he kind of
Yeah.
gets thrust into this. But again, the only thing that chose him was the Demogorgon. You know.
Mm.
Um,
See, but it's interesting. Every time he's tried to make a decision on his own, with like guidance from somebody. Well, not every time, but like we really saw it in season 2 when Bob told him, he's like, when I went to sleep and I had that clown come to me, I said, "Go
Right.
away," and he went
Yeah.
away. It's
So
like
he
he
finally
kind of tried
stands
to,
up and
and he
gets
just
shit on.
gets, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Obviously, season 1's a little different. He tries to defend himself with a weapon, but that just obviously fails.
Hmm.
Um, and then season 3, he's more or less just kind of like the communicator. He's like, okay, he's near, I
Yeah.
can feel him, blah blah blah. So he was
Yeah.
helpful in season 3, but at the same time, not a main character. And then season 4, yeah, just completely just
Yeah.
derailed.
Which is
And,
either
yeah.
like a huge oversight on the Duffer Brothers, or this has been their play all along.
Yeah.
And they've purposely been like, he kind of forgot that he's been suffering. And there's just going to be like a montage that
All the
builds up
things.
to him going, you know what? F these guys.
Hmm.
Let's
Yeah.
do this. Give me
Mhm.
some tentacle boys. Let's party. You know,
Mhm.
like it's time. You
I
know,
could I could totally see that, and I would really like that actually.
it's like you want to see Will the Wise. Well, how about Will the
The bad,
freaking bad
bad,
guy?
bad. I'm the villain now.
They're just
Didn't say I'm not
done.
wise enough to come up with a good name, but that's what I kind of was like leaning towards when I'm seeing this all play out. However, there's
Mhm.
literally no California story in episode 7, so there's no setup to like.
Anything.
So
Yeah.
I'm interested. I do think there has to be a season 5 though, because
Oh, there is a
they're
season 5.
right. Yeah, I just mean like
The
if these
story
2
is begging
episodes
for
were
it. Yeah.
really that like
Oh, yeah, yeah,
The
yeah.
ending,
end.
I
Mhm.
just don't think they can tackle. I think something big happens, but I think in a lot of ways it's going to really project a new status quo into season 5, and season 5 is
Mhm.
going to be something. If Vecna survives, it's going to be Vecna plus something, or the
Mm.
Mind Flayer's back, or like the Mind Flayer's not gone. I don't think.
No.
No.
'Cause I mean,
Did
even
you
at the end
did
of
you see the end where they show like a 30-second teaser after the episode?
No, I tried to skip forward, but it wouldn't let me.
Okay, they show just like a real quick glimpse of 8 and 9
Mm.
episodes, like 30 seconds, and you can hardly see what's going on. But like Hopper is like thrust into this like almost what looks like a museum of upside down things. Like there's like um, embalming
Mm.
like
Statues and stuff.
statues of demogorgons.
Mm.
Like there's like specimens, and then in this giant cage is the dust like mind flayer thing that like
Mm.
went
Oh, the
into
particles and
that
yeah.
like that eventually affected Billy in
Yeah.
season 3. Like when it was
Mhm.
that dust that like resurfaced
Mhm.
after the gate opened.
Yeah.
yeah.
So like yeah, I think in some ways this like Vecna is like Thanos. Like, hey, Captain Marvel's off planet. L is off planet.
Mm.
It's time for me to attack.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get all my foot soldiers. Let's go, and then maybe I can turn one of them against me or against
Mhm.
everybody. And then
Or
season 5 is like
yeah.
end game.
Yeah.
Or kill like a really important character. Like for real this time, not like,
Oh, they're
you know.
gonna. I think somebody has to
I
die,
agree.
and it might be
Yeah.
Steve.
Oh,
They're really playing towards that, especially at the
Steve. Yeah.
where
I
he's
would
like being
riot,
attacked by
but
all those
dude.
bats, you know.
I thought he was done. I'm like, oh my
Well, and
boy,
it's like
Steve.
weirdly infected kind of thing too. So like, could he like? Do they have some sort of like vampiric like
Yeah.
bite that like is he gonna become like an
Yeah.
upside down
If
monster or
if
something?
Steve dies, yeah, I'm turning back time.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm trying to think of what they would need to.
Someone needs to die.
The other thing I was thinking of is, uh, are you guys good with just predicting some things?
I mean, that's what we've been doing.
Okay, cool. Sorry, I feel like I've been talking a lot. So
No. Well, before we get into predictions, because I feel like
yes,
this
okay,
be
yes,
a good.
please.
So you guys obviously know that in movies there are things that camera work and actors can do to make you really feel like really incredibly uncomfortable,
Mm.
like that. This show, and there's one scene that I'm about to tell you that has made me the most embarrassed and uncomfortable in my entire 24 years of movie watching, TV shows, and living life. And that was when Elle is bullied in
The
at the
roller
front of the
rink.
school. No, at the school,
Oh.
and she gets pushed down, and her project gets like stomped on or whatever,
Oh,
and she's
yeah.
like Angela, and she like tries to do her powers and screams, and it's just like silence, and it's just like so.
Oof.
Literally, I cringed in my chair so hard that I've never before. It was just so like I felt so bad for her in that moment. I'm just like, no, Elle, what are you doing?
Oh, yeah,
Just,
it's bad
Oh, yeah, it's uncomfortable for
for
Anyway,
sure.
just wanted to throw
No,
that out there.
I agree. I think the bullying that Elle goes through is so intense.
Hmm.
It makes you feel so bad. And then yeah, she's like she tries so hard and then oh
Mhm.
yeah, that part where she like "Ah!" and nothing
Mhm.
happens.
It's like,
Oh, you're like, oh Elle, no.
I'm just
Oh
stop.
honey.
It's like so. Like I obviously do not condone aggression and violence. I don't think there's any place for that. But
But
what Elle goes
But
through, but the big
skate to the face,
BUT.
maybe.
Yeah, especially for
oh
her, like this chick got kind of got what she deserved. Not gonna lie.
yeah. The point what after she got bullied at the roller rink and she like Elle gave her this dirty look and I was like kind of doing like something else. I looked away and I was like cleaning something. And I was like, "Oh, Elle, effing kill her, dude! Like, yeah, I just get her." And then she picks up a roller skate. I was like, "No, no, 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 no! I wasn't
I
serious."
was, I was joking.
That's
That's
funny.
great.
That
Uh,
okay, yeah, you're right. We should keep talking about the actual season and then we'll get into predictions.
Yeah,
So that's good. That was a good way to hold me accountable there,
oh, okay.
there, Levi.
Well, yeah,
My
and
buddy.
another thing I'd noticed, like throughout the season, is that Henry Vecna, number one, whatever you want to call him, he not only obviously he kills the person the same way, but it's in the same sequence. So if you
Mm.
rewatch each kill, he breaks the arms first, and then the legs, and then he goes for the jaw, and then the eyes, and then he's done.
Huh.
And then it's like the same. It's either the arms first or the legs first, and then the arm second or the leg second. So it's one of the two, but the jaw always comes last, and then the eyes get
Mhm.
gouged out, and then it's it. It's just like so. That's another thing that's like really cool with the continuity of the show. It's like yeah, obviously he kills them the same way, but it's in the same exact
Yeah,
sequence.
it's very personal.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
interesting.
so
That
something
is
really cool.
yeah, that is interesting. I like that. What would you guys say was your favorite crew? Because we had a few teams now. The teams are split, you know?
Yeah, let's see what they were. So for yeah, I guess we had
The
jeez,
California Stoners.
California Stoner Boys,
Joyce
um,
and Murray.
Joyce and Murray going off in the Russia,
Yeah.
and then we had kind of Hawkins Crew, which was split up a little bit, kind of in and
Yeah.
out. But you got
Yeah.
like Steve and
Yeah.
Robin,
And
and
technically connected to those two previous teams is like Hopper in prison and then
yes,
obviously Elle in
L
like Nevada,
kind of
but
breaking
like but
off.
she's not yeah. I mean
Yeah,
like you kinda have your teams and then the person that they're
doing something
the
towards.
MacGuffin of. Yeah.
Yeah, the MacGuffin person. Um, yeah, I in general, I thought everyone was in a good place.
Mhm.
And with teams that I thought were interesting, and I didn't feel like, oh, well, this is a storyline I don't care about. Like, well, now we're going back to Russia. Like, I don't care what's going on here. It's like I cared about every single one individually. I think the ones that I cared about the least were like the California one, with the road tripping to
Sure.
go see
Susie Poo.
Susie Poo. Yeah, Dusty Westy's girl,
Dusty Buns.
Dusty Buns. Sorry, excuse me.
Get it right.
Sorry,
Come on, dude. Quit
fake
slacking.
fan. Um, um. But that was the one I was like, okay, interesting, but not. I mean, the upside down stuff in Hawkins was top notch for me. Though in California there was a dope scene where
Yeah.
they get
Oh,
attacked.
Oh,
dude,
100%. The
Oh
one
right?
shot.
yeah,
Yeah.
that was a great shot.
Yeah, it was so surprising because everything else was so like laid back, and it's like
Yeah.
it was cool to see Mike and Will finally together again, and
Hmm.
like, hey, what if we actually get like a thing? But you
Yeah.
know that there's this building storyline that's about to happen where they're
Yeah.
definitely gonna probably have some issues. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
like Will got his little painting. God knows what it is.
Yeah.
I need to know. Like
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh boy, what is it?
It's
Ugh.
gotta be something with It's got to be something with him and Mike. That's something personal to
Doing a
them
little hug.
because yeah, a hug, or maybe they're just totally macking
Playing
out or
D&D.
whatever.
Totally macking
Matt,
out.
Matt,
A painting of them
it
kissing.
was like, hey, I made this for you. It's got a big old heart. Mike and
I know we
Will
used to play
forever.
board games and
Yeah.
bike together, but anyway, here's a painting of us kissing. No, I don't
Because
think
like
that's
he
it.
brought it to the airport and he wanted
Yeah,
to
it's
show
four. It's
Mike.
probably like the four of them playing D&D or something.
It could, yeah,
Yeah,
it's most likely
sure.
Yeah,
something like
Will
that.
got no respect. Mike is a douche.
Yeah, and 7 feet tall in this season.
Yeah,
Um,
like it's like, hi, Will. Anyways,
yeah, for sure. Mike,
yeah,
Mike's got his priority, but Mike's kind of been like Mike was your boy in season 1, and then everyone else kind of had to take over. In season 2, he's kind of like dealing with some stuff, and then season 3, he's obviously kind of a dick. So I think he still has some. His arc was always meant to like go from top to bottom back to the top. I think. And then Will's is like the opposite. I think Will's
Yeah.
like I've just been on the bottom the whole time, and hopefully I peak. And it's like, well, I hope you peak, but you might just become like a really
Well,
bad dude.
it seems like Mike is going back to the bottom again because before Elle left, so I don't know if you caught this, but like she was upset with Mike. Every time I wrote you a note, it was love
Yeah.
L. But you were from Mike,
From
from
Mike,
Mike,
yeah.
from Mike, from Mike. And she was upset about that. And then before she left, she wrote
Still
that note
couldn't
like,
say it.
"Hey Mike, I'm going to be a superhero again from
From
L."
L, yeah.
The first time,
Ooh.
it's like, ooh, that didn't really leave on the greatest of terms. So who knows? L could come back and just like not be a huge fan of Mike anymore, or
True.
she could still have the love for him, but at the same time, like you don't know. I mean, we won't know until July 1st because they've been separated for a
Long
while.
wait.
And also, I was quite surprised at how quickly 11 joined um the doctor. What's his
Yeah,
name?
that was quick.
I
And I'm
think
surprised he's alive, to be honest. I
Owens.
thought he was. No,
Oh,
the
Brenner.
Brenner, yeah, Brenner.
Yeah.
Like I thought he was just done in season 1. Like I didn't think he
Yeah.
was gonna come back.
I think they tried to really give her an identity crisis where we thought maybe she would like have some catharsis of like, hey, you're freed of the power, like just go be a normal person. And I think she's so intertwined with like being able to get everyone out of that sticky situation that when she can't even do it for herself.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think they set that up enough to make her desperate. So I think that was at least good. For why Owens would do that, but classic Owens being like, "Hey, I'm just out for your best interest." And it's like, is there a guy with a really nice white wig in this basement that we're going into? And she's like, maybe. I don't know. You're a celebrity here, blah blah blah. Anyway, let me stab you in the neck with a needle.
Yeah, I felt that kind of odd, but like, I don't know.
Not
I thought it
really
was
a lot of belief.
okay. Yeah, it was a lot of belief for someone who's gone through so much,
It's true.
like manipulation.
But it also shows. I mean, like she had no parental guidance. Like no one there for her. That's like Elle like at her
Going back to her
bare
father,
minimum.
yeah.
And she's always had like kind of daddy issues essentially because Brenner. I mean, in some ways, Vecna, and then Hopper, and Hopper's gone.
Yeah.
I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on this too, Levi. Like one thing I was telling Michael before the podcast was, what were your thoughts on? Oh well, no. Let's go with what team we like the most. I think.
Yeah.
I think it's still Hawkins.
Yeah,
I
I
mean, like
agree.
that team was sick, and it was. I mean, obviously it had the most people, but like it also, apart from L's storyline, had the most content,
Intrigue, yeah.
and stuff that was going on. I mean, it was getting pretty crazy. And
It's got
Hawkins,
Steve in it, so that's fine.
Steve
Yeah.
as well, but like this is kind of we don't have any ace up our sleeve. We really have to be careful, and they still make some crazy decisions, but it still leads to some of the coolest scenes that we've ever had in Stranger Things. Like we get to spend an entire episode in the Upside Down. No one's ever done that before, and the people who do it have never been in the Upside Down. So like Steve getting to like go from like, hey, I found the gate to like, holy shit, I'm in the Upside Down, I'm fighting bats, and like we're just doing it was dope. And then on top of that, when they get to do the bike scene where it parallels from like the Upside Down to the real
Yeah.
world, that's my favorite shot of the entire season. I
Yeah, that's dope.
loved that shot. I mean, it was so cool to be like, we're doing it. We're still just kids on bikes, but we're figuring it out. And I
Yeah.
just love that. That was so cool. And I didn't even know like from the trailer that it was going to be them on bikes in the Upside Down. I saw bikes upside down and was like, holy shit, the whole crew's like it's gonna be the
Yeah.
4 kids again,
Yeah.
4 boys. And it wasn't. It was these 4 the big kids.
Mhm.
And I
Yeah.
love that. That was so cool. So that would obviously be my team, but I respect Stoner Crew, even though Jonathan and Argyle probably are like, why are you even in the show? You
Yeah,
know?
not a lot of love for them this season.
Yeah, so it's funny to me, like
Yeah.
Joyce has like obviously gotten a lot of quote unquote showtime, screen time, and then Will and Jonathan, who were like pretty integral characters in the first 3 seasons, are now just like curbsided. First, like not even like obviously we've talked about Will, but Jonathan too. Like he used to be huge with solving the mysteries and
Yeah.
being with the crew, but like now he's just like stoned out of his mind all the time and not really helping out too much.
Yeah.
Except for kind of being like the babysitter for the kids or whatever.
Hmm. Yeah, the only
But if
thing I've
yeah,
seen Oh, good.
no, you're good. Go ahead.
The only thing I've seen higher than those guys are gas prices. Anyway, go ahead.
Dude, that's
Get
fine.
out of here.
She just like went straight for the jugular. Um, so I think I would agree. If I had to pick a crew, it would definitely be the Hawkins crew. Um,
You got to.
Simply because as much as I love this series, and one of the reasons I do love it is because it it is obviously it's Stranger Things, but the Hawkins Crew is like the Stranger Things, and then it's got
Yeah.
like different storylines, which does feel like Stranger Things, but it's got a different kind of little spin on it with California and Alaska and Russia and that sort of thing. So like the Hawkins and the Upside Down, that's like heart and soul of Stranger Things, like the bare bones of what it is, and then these other crews um, are great and they add so much to the show. But I think I would still have to stick with the Hawkins Crew because it's got great characters. And what's crazy to think about is this is the first season where not all of our characters are in tune with what's going on back at Hawkins.
Mhm.
Like nobody knows the full story. Not everybody knows the full story. Obviously, Hopper, no clue. He's in Russia. Joyce, no clue. She's trying to save him. Murray, obviously, he's not aware. But Mike and Will, who were always a part of everything, have
Mhm.
no idea what Vecna is, what's been going on. Not even that
Mhm.
there's murders. Same with
Sure.
11. She has no idea, and she's always known, things. Jonathan, who was also a part of it. And so it's like it's just interesting how, like, I'm sure these last 2 episodes, it's going to be like they're going to be back in Hawkins, and they have so much to figure out and
Mhm.
find out about what's been going on these last few days,
Yeah.
or whatever the however long the time span has been. But
Sure.
definitely the Hawkins crew for sure.
Yeah, the Hawkins Crew. Sick. You're in the same boat, right?
Oh yeah,
Or did you go
Hawkins.
first? I can't remember.
I when you said Hawkins, I agreed with you.
Okay.
Dustin and Steve, my boys.
Dusty
Yeah.
Steve. Hell yeah.
I'll paint a picture of them.
Henderson. Henderson.
Yeah, I think a lot of the 2 and 3 like built that, particularly 2 and to 3. It's like Henderson. Best part of season 3 was like him popping out there. It's the first like scene or whatever of season 3.
Yeah.
Like that's great. And so
Uh-huh.
they're just bickering. It's great.
There's some beautiful moments too with like him and Steve and Eddie talking
Yeah.
about
Dustin.
Dustin and their like joint like love for like knowing they're accepted by him. And so like Eddie even has this moment where like, hey, I'm like the cocky like dungeon master, but right now I've actually been on the run. I'm super humble. And I'll be honest. Since I'm being honest now, I'm kind of jealous that Henderson likes you as much as he does. And there's just like cool like moment. But then there's also this moment where like they're doing the light bright upside down
Yeah,
scene, which is
super
also
cool.
super dope because we never actually got to see how Will did it.
Yeah.
We just know that
Yeah.
he did.
Mhm.
So to see the upside down from this perspective was dope. But like Dustin's basically like, does anyone listen to me ever?
Yeah.
He's like super ego like driven, and Steve basically is just like, God, we got to check this kid's ego. And Eddie goes like, it's the tone, right, or something like they both
Yeah.
know or thinking like, here's your flaw, but like they both love him, and you're just like,
Yeah.
damn, dude, you
Yeah.
guys can just get away with some really cool stuff because you genuinely care for
Yeah.
these characters that you've made.
The point of how do you why light, and why does light the one thing that can escape the upside down and be interacted with?
That's interesting.
Like
Yeah.
why is that the thing? I don't
Mhm.
know, but
Well, what's also
Yeah.
interesting is like in that scene where they're interacting with the lights, the crew in the Upside Down, they could hear Dustin, but not vice versa.
Mm.
So it's like, how does that work? And why does that work that way? And also, why are
Yeah.
the cops so idiotic? Like he's literally
I
yelling,
love how stupid the
"You
cops
guys
are.
got it yet?" And then
Yeah.
the cops are
They're
just like
bad.
downstairs. It's like, oh my
Mhm.
gosh, you guys are idiots.
They're
Yeah.
incompetent without Hopper, baby. Yeah, that's
Hmm.
interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know though. I
Um,
can't. I mean, I hope that's something they flesh out, but maybe it's like
Mhm.
remnants of like what the Upside Down could be.
mm,
Like it's still there's still some good in it or something. I don't,
mm,
but I don't know why
like
that allows
light's
you
the
to
only.
manipulate electricity.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, so now that we've kind of discussed, I mean, are there any kind of like closing statements you guys have about the season itself? I think we'll do um with part two, we're obviously going to dive into those last two, but then how the whole
Mhm.
season played out.
Yeah.
And so
That'll be
I think we
interesting.
did dive into it pretty good, but
Mhm.
volume two, I think, will help us kind of clean up anything we would have missed or
Mhm.
Yeah.
missed.
I think let's talk briefly about Hopper. What I don't think we talked too much about him or his story.
Mm-hmm.
True.
I'm still semi upset that he's even still alive, but I like his character, and sure, whatever, he's still alive.
Mm-hmm.
How did he survive that? Sure, fine.
Sure.
But his stuff was interesting enough to not be like, oh, okay, annoyed that like this random like subplot line is here, and he's kind of it could have been a boring. What I'm saying is it could have been a boring
Yeah.
line where he's just in prison. But I thought it was interesting and I liked it, and that he fights the Demogorgon at the end. Oh, it's so cool.
That
Mhm.
was sick.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That
Levi,
was
I'll let
dope.
you start with that and then I'll jump in.
Okay. So I like how he's in kind of like just this, I mean, solitary confinement, and he's had a lot of time to reflect on what's happened in the past, and like before he fights the Demogorgon, he's just kind of like come to terms, like, yeah, I'm gonna die, you know. Like we gave it a shot of me trying to go back to the States and be with Joyce, but like it didn't work, so like it's probably not gonna work. I'm just gonna die a hero's death and enjoy this last, feast or whatever. Um, but at the same time, I do like Hopper's resiliency, even though he's like in a completely different state. He's still trying his very best to get back to where he needs to be, with Joyce and things like that. I was okay with him still being alive. I still, like Michael said, I could have preferred him like actually being dead, because they really played it like he was like the machine blew up. He wasn't there, so I mean we assumed he just got evaporated. And then this emotional letter he wrote to Elle, and just the emotion of the end of season three just made it seem like, yeah, he's done. And then at the very end of season three, the Russians were walking. He's like, no, not the American or whatever. And then the teaser for like, oh, they have a Demogorgon in the prison or whatever. So it was like, okay, he's still alive. That's fine. But I would have preferred, and then it would have just taken this. I mean, actually, Elle still thinks he's
Yeah,
dead.
I also thinks.
Everybody thinks he's dead except for obviously Joyce and Murray. So I guess it wouldn't be any different, but it would be different for Joyce and Murray if it was like confirmed fact dead,
Mm-hmm.
like he's not
Mm-hmm.
coming back. So yes, it's cool he's alive. Like Hopper's a great character. We all love him. I think the community as a whole just adores him.
Mm-hmm.
So like it would have really been heartbreaking if he really did die. Um, so for them to bring him back, I'm like, okay, that's fine. I'm like not upset about it or anything. I love Hopper too, but it would have been neat to see how season four would be if he really was gone.
Yeah, would have
Yeah.
been interesting to.
Hmm.
what would Joyce have done this season?
Right.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
what's
it's
even
true.
more frustrating is, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but
You're
what's
good.
even more frustrating is that the cops in Hawkins obviously have no clue of what's going on. It's like all these crazy, weird, strange things are going on. Hopper would have just been like, "Holy crap, let's get the gang together. We need to talk about this." Has the Upside Down returned? Has the Mind Flayer returned, or some new villain, et cetera, et cetera? But like the new police chief and the entire police force have no clue what's going on, which makes it different because now the kids don't really have the quote unquote the law on their side. They're not only fighting the town of Hawkins, but they're also fighting
Right.
and trying to stay away from the police.
Yeah.
Whereas in seasons 1 through 3, they had Hopper, and they didn't really have to worry about acting outside of the law. So kind of, it adds a little bit of a tone shift for the Hawkins crew this season.
Yeah, I liked a lot when the city hall came, and then the
Yeah.
guy rallies them
Yeah,
against the
dude.
Hellfire
Mhm.
Club, and it's like, oh, they're understandably what they're doing, but also they're wrong. And it's just
Yeah.
like,
There's now two fronts
yeah,
and the kids are between everything.
yes,
They're going to
yeah,
be the ones that are considered the satanic,
Mhm.
ritualists,
yeah,
even though they're fighting the
yeah,
satanic like
yeah,
force.
the
It's just
little,
like,
yeah,
if you
and
only
it's just
knew.
like, how do you? I think, I think our boy Eddie is gonna die as a prediction because I just don't know. I just don't know how you come back from that.
Hmm.
Like as of the police that wouldn't know what was going on, and then
Yeah.
they defeat Vecna or whatever, and then it's like, oh, now Eddie is still convicted murder
Well, and they
or
laid it on
whatever.
pretty thick that he's like, and I guess my identity now is somebody who runs away from everything. I'm a coward.
Mhm.
And so his final hurrah could very well be like, I'm
Sacrifice,
gonna
yeah.
go hard. And it's like, damn, one and done. But we had to have our Bob and our Barb for this season, I suppose.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
So like
yeah.
going on that, my prediction then obviously would be that he dies, but like I think that there would be just so many like maybe the final episode probably would be where he dies, episode 9.
Mhm.
And the whole crew's coming together. I'm talking Joyce, Hopper, Murray, everybody from
Thunder
California except
left,
for,
portals open,
exactly,
Cap
right?
left.
Like just Cap shows up, Thor's
Yeah,
there,
Thor's there. It's like,
the
Batman,
where have
whole
you been?
crew.
Superman.
We
Yeah.
got the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, like everybody's showing up.
Yeah.
And then they get to the Victor Creel house. They figure out that's where he is. I mean, they did technically. Um,
Yeah.
they figure, they get there, and there's just so many bets. They're just like, there's no way. Like we can't do this unless they're gone. And then
Yeah.
he's like, I
He
got this,
plays his
guys.
guitar.
I'm gonna just grind on my guitar for my last hurrah. And
What do you
then
think the
now they
song
have a
is?
chance.
Love Gun.
No.
Oh.
Freebird?
Uh,
Here's my solo. Anyway, here's Wonderwall. Uh,
Yeah.
oh
Let
yeah.
me chat a little bit about Hopper before we jump full
Mm-hmm.
into that. Is I think the only issue I have with his story is that he just fell down a few feet, and that's what made him survive the
oh yeah, it's
explosion.
ridiculous.
But I do know that the portals don't work like, hey, if I go into the Starcourt gate, I'll now appear in Russia. I know that's how the Upside Down doesn't work either.
Mm.
So when it happened, like, did you get the American? I think it said 3 months later. So like there was time that had passed, which is fine. I just am sitting there like, there's no way in hell that he like got into a gate and then just somehow like in the Upside Down got to Russia
Mhm.
upside down and then went back
Mm-hmm.
into that. So I was just like, I don't know what I was expecting, but I thought like when Murray and like Joyce are running literally down the same steps that he would like maybe you'd bump into,
Something.
like Hopper. He's a big man, but I mean it's fine. There was
I feel like they
Soviets
could have done
and
something where, like, I mean, what I thought initially was where we know he ends up in Russia was like, oh, Russia's patrolling the Upside Down or something, or like there's somehow like
sure. It's
no.
just how did he globe trot? Because we've only been introduced to that being a portal into the exact area that you're in.
Right.
Not
No.
that you would all of a sudden just go through one crack and then appear
Right.
into
But I
Russia.
thought like, oh, they
Maybe they
had
figured
something. Yeah.
two gates have opened to create a
Sure.
portal. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was the most. Yeah, I
But
see what
like
you're
when
saying.
it's like, anyways, I fell down and I'm 2 feet away from the explosion.
Correct.
Right.
but I'm
It
cool.
was a little rough, but what I will say is, as much as I didn't like having to spend 7 episodes for him to kind of get to where he needed to go, it was one of those like, hey, sorry, 2 of these storylines have a lot to cover. You don't.
Mm-hmm.
So we're gonna give you kind of like a fake escape, and then we'll go from there. The one thing I will say though that like I really enjoyed is you do get a little bit extra. He's always had a little bit of character development. He's always opened up a little bit about his past. But
Mhm.
season 3 Hopper was one that finally kind of let his guard down and kind of was just more raw because he
Mm.
was like, all right, we don't have to worry about stuff. But the scariest thing now is that my adopted daughter likes to kiss boys. Oh no, what do I do? And this is couldn't be further from like, the
What he's
stakes that
doing,
are
yeah.
placed. But I
Mhm.
love that they basically paralleled him with 11. Like they shaved him bald. They gave him a uniform. He's literally imprisoned.
Mm-hmm.
He's literally getting to like parallel his own daughter's kind of storyline
Yeah.
with it him having to face the Demogorgon at the end. Like
Yeah,
he literally gets like L's season 1 arc,
that's so
which I
cool.
think is really cool and will allow them to probably have a stronger bond because of it. And he's only stronger because he knows something from her. So the only thing that makes him good are the people that have been in his life, and he isn't the curse. And there's that beautiful scene that when him and Joyce finally do embrace, when he was on one side of that door, he was like, this is it, this is what I deserve. And
Mhm.
then on the other side, it was like, I don't deserve this, but holy cow, I'm so thankful that I get it. So there's
Yeah.
this really cool moment with him. And I've always said this. I mean, Hopper's like one of my favorite characters of like all time.
Mm.
Like, and I
Yeah.
love that dude. And so I think I was kind of okay that he wasn't like popping off because I think he has popped off so much
Yeah.
that I was okay with him kind of like groveling and kind of like just dealing with some stuff
Mm.
because he needs to kind of just like
Have a moment.
yeah, and then they ended up tying it into like, hey, I got abused by the military basically, and that probably is what caused my daughter's death. And like, I think I'm just damaged goods. I'm
Yeah.
bad. And it's
Yeah.
like, well, I'm sure Elle in some ways feels like, I'm damaged goods. I'm doing all this. So I really like that. While it seemed new to us, it wasn't new to Stranger Things, and it was still perfect.
Right.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Use of him. So that's what I will say is I did like his arc in that regard. But I don't think like comparing him to the Hawkins and going, what do you think? It's like
No,
it's stop. Like
different
it's
things.
just what are we doing? So that's what I'll say about my boy Hop.
My boy.
Sweet. Definitely a lot of good points all around.
Okay, so what do you guys think? How do you think the next 2 episodes play out? We've kind of predicted what we think will happen somewhat in the future. Like maybe this could happen, maybe this could happen. What do you think happens episode 8? What do you think happens episode 9? And just for your guys' knowledge, episode 7 is like an hour and a half, or 8
Yeah,
is an
but
hour and a half, and 9 is 2.5,
That's
2 hours
insane.
and 40
That's
minutes.
insane.
So
That's so much to do.
it's a lot of stuff.
My only prediction is Steve is gonna have great hair like he always does. And that's really all I care about.
What do you think his end game is going to be? Do you think he gets sick? Do you think that was just a red herring?
Yeah, I think he dies.
Yeah.
Yeah, which bums me out.
Yeah.
But he dies.
I think it's between him. I think I could see Eddie.
Oh, yeah. That's someone needs to die.
Do you
Yeah.
think any of the main 4
No.
little kids will die?
No.
No. Okay.
No. I think that might happen in season 5,
We might get
but
like Dustin
again, that's
dying.
like a long shot. Because I
Yeah,
mean, like,
cast the fireball at will.
yeah.
Let's see what happens.
I mean, yeah, I'm leaning more towards Eddie, but I could also see Steve dying as well, especially his attack from the bats and his, wounds looking super
That
infected.
would be what a choice.
But the way they've been playing Eddie's character, like you're saying, like I've been the coward,
Mhm.
I've been running. You like I'm kind of sick of running. I'm gonna stand up, even if it means my demise.
Mhm.
So I'm leaning more towards Eddie. I think Eddie's going to be the one to go out. I don't. I'm really thinking that Vecna's not gonna die. I think Vecna's gonna either win or be real close to death, kind of like how like It chapters 1 and 2 did. Like
Hmm.
it seemed like the kids won. If you never read the book or never saw the original TV miniseries, like Vecna could be defeated, but he kind of escapes a little bit, and then season
Yeah.
5 he comes back stronger and maybe has reinforcements of maybe all the Demogorgons, the Demodogs, the Demobats,
Oh.
like
Mhm.
the whole crew is coming. But I don't know.
Yeah. What do you guys think is like making those things? Do you
Mm,
think like there's
Mm,
there's just
they're just there.
eggs,
Yeah.
or do you think like the Mind Flayer does something, or do you think the people that have been missing in
Yeah,
Hawkins have
it's something
anything to
like
do?
no, it's probably something like, oh, it's our own evilness of
Yeah,
as humans
because
brought into the world
they
of
did
the.
make an effort to show us that Will incubated like kind of alien style
Mm.
a
mhm,
Dimmadog.
Yeah, something
So
like
like
that.
why? Like why
yeah.
that and not just be like, well, we can make dogs
It's got to be
whenever.
something to do with evil, like our sins or something, like just represented as this
Yeah.
something like it's just a big monster and it
Yeah.
has babies.
Yeah, or like where'd all the
Mhm,
bats come from, or like
Yeah.
that's I guess that's kind of I hope they do answer that eventually. Like why a Demogorgon?
Hmm.
How a Demogorgon?
Yeah.
mhm.
I think there's just
Well,
so much to answer, but I don't know.
yeah. So like it's like going back to season 1, there was one, maybe two main Demogorgons, which were pretty tough, beefy monsters that were pretty hard to defeat. Which are maybe like the knights of like I don't know, a,
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
general or
Yeah.
like an army or whatever. And
Hmm.
then we got the Demodogs, which were there were more of them, but they weren't as strong as the
Foot
dog as
soldiers. Yeah.
right. They were the foot soldiers, and then the bats kind of seem like there's like tons of them, but they're just so weak and they can be defeated really
Yeah.
easily. So
But
it's
in
like maybe
packs
they're
they're
like the
terrifying.
right, they're like the peasants of the army or something like that,
Hmm.
where they can still do damage, but like if you're just facing one, it's like no big deal.
Yeah. There
So
doesn't seem to be
maybe,
like
yeah.
an explanation of like the evolution. Like the dogs and the Demogorgons seem close enough that like maybe you become like if you're alive long enough you become a Demogorgon. But then the
Mm-hmm.
Demogorgons are so humanoid that the question,
Yeah, you can't
is
get
like
from the bat.
were you at one point a human?
Hmm.
And you're kind of like Vecna, but like Vecna's like powerful, so you're just kind of like a human that got turned evil? Or do you think
Yeah.
Demogorgons are 100% organic upside down?
No, I think it has to do something with humans.
Yeah.
It has to be some kind of connection.
Like the xenomorph from Alien is like it only has that frame and that build
Right.
because it was incubated. It has some DNA of human
Yeah,
in
it's
it.
something like
Exactly.
that.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think
Fair
so.
enough.
Could
Um,
be. Or it could be like each time, like in season 1, they threw out their maybe like before Vecna existed, one of their best of the best. That didn't work, so they're going to throw out their second best. Maybe more of the second best
Hmm.
will be as effective. Now we're
Yeah.
kind of like at our third best, but we have a bunch of them, so maybe that'll work. So it's like maybe there's like a progression where he's like, I've thrown this and this at you, didn't
Yeah.
work, so now I've got this.
Of
This
course.
is my last resort
Hmm.
before my next maybe step in the phase of creation of an army, something, I don't know.
Yeah, that's interesting because Vecna also like has them on display. Like even though the bodies are still in the real
yeah,
world, he still collects.
Right.
And he says that like they're all still here.
yeah,
Like he collects
Mhm.
his like victims.
trophies.
So I just
Hmm.
was curious if like are these like shadow projections of humans that like he's
Mhm.
collected over the
Yeah,
years or something. I don't know. Anyway,
Yeah.
just something to be like, okay, maybe they're gonna tie that in because why make such a big deal out of how powerful a Demogorgon is? Why
Mhm.
have that be a thing if Vecna could have just been it the whole time?
yeah,
Like they've purposefully chosen these things, and I hope it's not gonna just be like, they're just kind of
they're
there.
there.
So I hope they
Yeah.
do something with it.
Yeah.
Um,
Hot take, does anybody is Nancy in trouble?
Mm. Like relationship trouble because she
No, no,
needs to date
no.
Steve or
this
what?
love triangle.
Like death trouble. Because like she the last time we left her, she was
Yeah,
stuck in that
Trance.
trance.
yeah.
So
Yeah,
like is yeah.
what's interesting about her is that we never got the like initial visions. So she's either hiding it or Vecna's like changing his. Is he too powerful now that he can just skip to phase trance
Yeah.
and just get you?
Yeah, it was interesting to bring back the trauma of
Barb.
Mm-hmm.
That was interesting. So I don't think she's in trouble like right now, but I think she could be.
Do you think Vecna also stops after you've successfully evaded him? Because he seems to like have just left Max alone now. Or
That
do
we
you think,
know of.
or do you
I mean,
think
there's
like
so much.
because she keeps listening to the song, she's fine? Like maybe
I think
Vecna's still
so.
trying.
I think so. I think
Okay.
he's still trying, but we're just not really seeing it.
Got it.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
so at least I mean, we've known nothing about after she
Yeah.
ran out of the hole.
True.
There's also a weird connection with like. Did you guys notice that there's like no water in the Upside Down?
No, but
So like
because
when
when they're on the lake, yeah, that's
he like
right.
swims it, but then when she goes, uh, Steve's pool's empty
Mm-hmm.
and then fills it up like
Mm-hmm.
with blood or whatever. But like
Right.
found that kind of weirdly.
Yeah, because they go into
Like why
the
not just
lake.
swamp? You know?
Yeah,
I don't
Yeah.
know.
True.
something about water and life and something. I don't know.
Yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
thought that was odd.
Yeah. And also, it seems like Vecna can only target one person at a time.
Mm.
Um, at least in the Upside Down. I feel like if he was in our world, he'd be able to just kind of choose a multitude of individuals and just kind of break every bone in their body from there. Um, but it seems like because like obviously he went from the cheerleader to the nerdy kid, and then to Max, and so it's not been like everything's happening at the same time,
Well,
even though.
there is the like they were having visions for a week before.
He
Oh
kind of
yeah,
starts his spread, but he only takes you out one at a
He
time.
takes
Yeah.
you out
yeah,
one at a time, but
exactly, yeah.
so there was a limit to his power where he can only be in one place at one time.
Hmm.
Yeah.
But
He
he
can't
can
be like
still
in
mess
Max's
with.
mind and in like the cheerleader's mind at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did like though that he kind of in his own like sensory tank, but his are just tentacles that
Tentacles
plug
just
into him that like
Hmm.
help him get to that. Obviously, the vines
Yeah.
probably connect eventually to a gate somewhere
hmm
that bleed through, so that's how he's connected. But
Yeah.
it very much is like, oh, so this is like Elle is just underwater and um in her suit or whatever, and then like she can travel that way,
Hmm.
but you have to be like plugged into your mansion
To,
vine thing, which I
yeah,
thought was kind of cool. Like he still has to like have a machine of some kind. It's
yeah.
just yeah, but I don't know.
Yeah. And it's
It'll be interesting
interesting
to see.
too with Vecna. I mean, it's not been a consistent theme, so like what I'm about to say is like obviously not 100% confirmed, but there were, I think, with the cheerleader, and I don't want to say it was with the nerdy kid. It was with the cheerleader for sure, where it was like your suffering is at an end. Like
Mm.
it wasn't like he killed her out of just like the thrill for killing. It was like you've suffered. I'm about to put you to rest. Like you're going to be
hmm
at peace.
Hmm.
Um, with Max, it wasn't like that. It was like the guilt of her brother's death. With the nerdy kid, it was that car accident. Like you like murderer, murderer, murderer. So it's like obviously it's not confirmed, but I feel like there's some part of Vecna or Henry or Number One where it was like he was doing it out of both love and hate, um, because of his past trauma, and then just
Yeah.
wanting to. Because it seemed like he killed the kids in Hawkins' lab out of
To like
hate
free
for
them though.
to free them, but also out of hate for Brenner, like to just
Yeah.
completely ruin his goals of creating this army of superhuman individuals. But also like Brenner's been treating you guys like complete and utter shit, and I'm giving you
Yeah.
peace. I'm giving
I
you rest.
mean,
So it's like both.
it's so. I mean, I know we've kept making the connections to Thanos, but I mean, it's like I think he thinks he's a necessary evil.
hmm
Like I'm
Hmm.
gonna free you from your suffering because
hmm
isn't it better to not live than to live in suffering? Um,
Right.
but
But it's also
he's
fun to
so
kill.
flawed that he can he like knows that he's not that powerful, so he has to keep picking the weak, like
Right.
Right.
um compromised people until he's ready. Because I think he's timid now that 11 did what she did. That he's like, I'm gonna have to choose wisely going forward
Mhm.
because if I like just go
Take on
in
the
for
best of
like
the
some,
best.
what if she figures it out? So I'm
Yeah.
gonna go for like weak guy, and he's just eating like all of the easy meals right now
Mhm.
before he has to really go after
Mhm.
someone with like a strong willpower that
Yeah.
can actually do that. So I think in some ways he plays it off like he actually cares to end your suffering, but I think he's like, you're just the easiest food for now.
True.
And I just need to juice up
Mhm.
because if she catches wind of this, she's gonna kick my ass. Um,
Yeah. And because like if
until
she's
I
gonna
have
get her,
enough.
yeah.
And so,
Because like
but
they
the
did say when 11 gets her powers back, it's gonna be stronger than it was
even more
before.
power. Yeah, like
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, it's going down.
Mhm.
I'm ready for it.
So okay, well, yeah, I don't know if I have any other real predictions. I think, like I said, I do think something big's gonna go down with Will.
Yeah.
Um, and I hope it's like, and I mean, this season was so well written that I think it will easily, um, they'll
Be
take
done
care of
well.
it.
Mhm.
But like this was so unpredictable. Like I had no idea that any of
Yeah.
this was gonna
No
happen.
way.
Oh.
I would be incredibly sad if Steve died, but I do think just by the sheer number of characters we have at this point, some people
Some
need to
yeah,
dropping
I
off, and it
agree.
can't just be just the minor characters.
Mhm.
I think there does need to
Mhm.
be some like how crazy would it be like if Nancy finally goes, you know what, maybe it was Steve, and then Steve dies, but now she has to go back to Jonathan. It's like you're kind of like plan B. I actually
Yeah.
did fall back in love with him, but you know what? He got taken off the board, and then that just
Right.
creates another thing where he's like, I'm not good enough, and then Jonathan goes off the deep end or something.
Yeah.
Just like
No, there's something there.
they could really do
Mhm.
something crazy. Or who knows, maybe Robin will sway Nancy and she'll just be like, you know what, never mind. Neither Jonathan nor Steve. It's Robin time,
Robin
baby.
time,
Because
baby.
Robin also had that weird thing at the beginning. One of my predictions was that maybe filming happened super early and then they
Mm.
had to stop with COVID and stuff. She had this weird, like, I have the hots for the trumpet player.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Anyway,
Mhm.
and then the show continued. So,
Yeah.
like, I wonder if
Yeah.
she had an arc where, like, they're like, you know what? It's not gonna cut it, so you're doing Nancy stuff now. So,
Mhm.
I have no
Yeah.
idea.
Mm.
There's little things like
Could be.
that where
Yeah.
stuff happens. So,
Yeah, I don't really know. I don't really know prediction wise, but now that I hear this stuff about the time that you were throwing out there, I'd really like to do that. But I'm just kind of like, hey, at this season, I knew nothing, and I like
sure.
planned nothing.
Yeah.
And so I'm gonna go into it with some open expectations.
Yeah,
Mhm.
for
Though
sure.
the time stuff, I'm like, that's gonna be
But
pretty.
it kills me because, like, why didn't we think about it? There was literally a clock in every
Yeah.
episode, and we're just like, huh,
Huh.
weird.
Isn't that
Anyway,
interesting? Yeah.
horror's crazy, just like, and we're just like
Well,
freaking
because like
out.
everything's so weird because there's like dead
Right.
bodies everywhere and
Yeah,
there's
but it's
bats and
just
Mhm.
such
spiders and it's
a
like
odd object to be
yeah.
like your calling card that's
Uh,
not menacing at all. Like some people
yeah.
are like, "Oh, it's so scary." Like what? I'm like, "It's a clock." But like it's always been there that like time is running out.
Yeah.
Mhm.
TikTok, like it's time. But what if it's also foreshadowing that time may be at the core